Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Grizzly Geezers. I'm your host, Stabby McStabberson, and this is my co-host, Troy the Axeman Pacelli. I don't know. I kind of flubbed that off to say that for Halloween.
Well, I don't know. Grizzly Geezers. I'm
Grizzly
thinking,
Geezers.
where's my cocaine?
Well, now we got Meth Gator, too, and I guess what's next? Is it going to be Blotto Badger?
I don't know, man, but I think we could have ourselves a really good franchise. Look, if you could have Sharknado with multiple sequels, I would say, yeah, let's have a go at Meth Gator. I will look forward to that one. Absolutely.
Well, Sharknado is still within the realm of possibility.
What, Sharknado? No. Yeah.
You know is it a tornado that sucks up sharks from the ocean? The sharks get spit
Well, a tornado can and does suck up schools of fish. It's not going to happen with sharks, and even if it did, the shark lands. The worst thing that could possibly happen is he friggin' crushes you, because it's not like he can come after you and eat you on land. You know, this isn't a Saturday Night Live sketch. Land shark. Candygram.
Candygram, yes. Remake, no. Leave Day of the Triffids alone. It's going to happen. You're going to have to deal with it. Okay. Anyway, we'll be talking about that.
I was as stunned as the rest of you guys. I put it in the notes. Haven't even read the article yet. I'll find out as we go.
Do you ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight? Does the devil look like Elizabeth Hurley? Didn't you play the devil in some movie? I don't know.
Oh yeah, Bedazzled. The remake of Bedazzled, yeah.
That's right, that was a remake as well, wasn't it? Who was
Yes,
the original?
it was.
Who was originally in Bedazzled, the old one?
It was originally oh gosh, help me out here. Was it like Dudley Moore and someone?
Oh, probably what's her name? The one from 10, Bo Derek, maybe?
No. It was before that.
I don't know.
I'm looking it up now. Although deleted scenes is probably already typing. But it was not that one. That was a remake.
I don't know. You didn't ask me what I'm sipping on.
What are you sipping on?
I have a mug root beer and a frosty cold can.
Ooh, that sounds really, really good.
Pepsi, actually, I'm not really big on Pepsi products, but they have the best root beer, I think, out of the brands.
Yeah. Dudley Moore.
Yeah.
Raquel Welch. And,
of course. Okay.
Yeah, well, that's right. We talked about it during the Raquel Welch. And Peter Cook.
I read about that recently. Okay.
Peter Cook played the devil. Raquel Welch was like the embodiment of lust.
That makes sense.
Yes, it does. Yes, it absolutely does.
Matanui, Sharkygram. Yeah, that'll be a Hallmark movie, but I'm just...
You know, I wish there was a way we could get a hold of some of those classic Saturday Night Live sketches, you know? I mean, just, you know.
Yeah, Auditor Dread, I know it was a quote from Batman '99. Have you ever danced with the devil in moonlight? I told you there was the old NES game where they have like these brief little cutscenes, so you see that after you beat a level, like the Jack Nicholson Joker pops on it as, "Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight?" Ha 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 ha. And then you get to the end of the game, and then you see Batman going up against the Joker, and there's another cutscene. He says, "Joker, you killed my parents. Now you'll dance with the devil in the pale moonlight." And then he punches him off the cathedral. And I'm thinking someone in Japan didn't understand the script. They probably got the script. Here's the script for the movie. Make a game off. And they say, I see.
That's
he throws him
so
off the
funny.
cathedral. Oh, no.
That
thank
is
you, Boomer,
so
taking
funny.
time. Is that stopped by? Oh, anytime. Deleted Scenes. Deleted Scenes is now doing, what's his streams called again? Something live, right? Hold on. Now I'm blanking. Now I got dead air. Hold on.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know. I've been kind of
Hold
busy
on a
today.
second. Deleted. Unscripted. Yeah, that's what they're called. And he does them randomly. I think he's trying to go for a Sunday nights around 8, though. That'll be a regular thing. If he ever gets to be able to have guests on, maybe I'll pop by before one of my streams, and we can shoot the slaw, as it were.
There you go.
I'm wanting to talk to him about some Shudder movies, like Skinamarink. That made no sense.
Oh, yeah. I haven't actually seen it yet. But I've heard some commentaries about it, and at the risk of sounding like a complete wuss, I'm a little afraid to check that movie out.
What?
Yeah, I'm a wuss.
I wish the line "never rub another man's rhubarb" was used in the.
Never rub another man's rhubarb.
Now I got an image of Mario pulling up one of the vegetables from Super Mario Brothers 2 and hearing the Joker say that.
Oh gosh! Oh, no. Right?
Welcome to Zootopia.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, no good old days tonight because we have to talk about the bad current days. Well, no, we will. Who knows if we run out of stuff to talk about, we'll do a good old days at the end. But I figure got a lot of stories to cover tonight.
So we're gonna jump right into it.
Yeah, I don't know what it is with these book censorship stories. They tend to always break on Sundays. I mean, maybe this other one broke a couple days ago, but I always see them.
Well, Sunday. Because this is pretty heinous crap, and I think they know it.
All right, you want to post the first link?
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I did use the Variety article. Where is it?
It's there.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, of course, the R word is in this title. I don't know if that's a problematic YouTube word. Of course, I am just repeating the title of Variety.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You're not monetized anyway.
That's true. James Bond novels edited to remove racist content. I'll read a bit from this. After the Roald Dahl text editing controversy that erupted in recent days, it is now the turn for Ian Fleming's James Bond novels to be written. So, of course, we didn't really touch on this too much in the stream, but Roald Dahl's books were being censored. They were like removing the words "fat" and things like that might be problematic for kids to read, which I think is rather silly.
Yes, I agree with you 100%.
And then, of course, there was this big hullabaloo, and we'll release uncensored versions too, probably for twice the price. So, but now we have James Bond. Okay, so let me go ahead and read this. A report in the UK newspaper The Telegraph reveals that ahead of the reissue of the Bond novels in April to mark 70 years of Casino Royale, the first book in the series, rights holders Ian Fleming Publications Limited commissioned a review by sensitivity readers. Now, if any of you don't know what a sensitivity reader is, it's something used in publishing. Modern writers tend to use them to go over their work to make sure that they're not offending various different groups. And of course, I remember being my first creative writing class I ever took, and the teacher said, if you haven't offended at least one person with your writing, you didn't do your job. But she was a wonderful, cantankerous old woman who said that. But we're living in different times now, and we can't offend everybody, so now we employ sensitivity readers. So each of these Bond books, these Bond reissue books, will carry the disclaimer. This book was written at a time when terms and attitudes which might be considered offensive by modern readers were commonplace. A number of updates have been made in this edition while keeping as close as possible to the original text and the period in which it is set, the Telegraph said. A commonly used pejorative...
Those two thoughts are completely antithetical to each other. On the one hand, This is how they talked back then. On the other hand, we're going to keep it as close as we can to the way they talked back then. Bullshit! Sorry, we didn't even get 15 minutes.
Well, no, it is bullshit. No, you can interrupt. It's fine. I'm going to be interrupting during this as well. Yes.
You can't interrupt yourself. I keep telling you that. You can't interrupt
the article that I'm reading.
I know, I know.
No, for instance, in the book Live and Let Die, that's, of course, the big one of these lists. The CIA agent Felix Leiter, which is Bond's American contact, he uses a certain word, which, of course, we don't use today. It's very offensive, but... Can I imagine that everyone working for the CSI and the CIA in the 1950s was racially sensitive? No, I don't think they necessarily were. Okay, that was the time.
You know, and the important thing to understand is, artistically speaking, when someone uses a word like that, even back then, oftentimes, it was meant to say something about the person using the word. The fact that they were using something that was offensive was supposed to have you thinking, this guy's not the nicest guy, you know?
Yes. Anyway, a commonly used pejorative term used for black people by Fleming, whose Bond books were published between 1951 and 1966 has been removed almost entirely and replaced with quote-unquote black person or black man. In other instances, references have been edited. Now, I looked at the American version recently. I'd read it before, too, but I picked it up. And I haven't given it a thorough reading, but I know that the slur was used in the dialogue speech, whereas in the text it was the other word, which was a more common word used during that time, but it was the clinical word for someone of that ancestry. Do you understand?
Yep.
Of that time. So I don't know. Perhaps in the English version, a worse version was used. I know sometimes when books came out in America from England, they changed words, usually with the author's permission.
And let me just point this out.
Ian Fleming would have done any of those edits himself and gotten them back to his editor for the American audience. Go ahead.
Yeah. Here's something to consider. Terms do change. And if you start changing everything to update them with the times, I mean, why don't we start with the NAACP? What does that stand for?
Right.
Maybe you need to change the name of the NAACP. People, get your heads out of your asses already.
Anyway, for example, in Live and Let Die, 1954, Bond's opinions of Africans in the gold and diamond trades as quote-unquote pretty law-abiding chaps I should have thought, except when they've drunk too much, has been altered to pretty law-abiding chaps I should have thought. Yes, many chaps are pretty law-abiding unless they drink too much and then they get into trouble. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with the person's race. That is true of people here in this country of all colors.
Okay. This is one of my favorites. Another scene in the book set during a striptease at a Harlem nightclub was originally Bond could hear the audience panting and grunting like pigs at the trough. He felt his own hands gripping the tablecloth. His mouth was dry. This has been revised to Bond could sense the electric tension in the room. That is not describing that scene. Let me describe this scene. Okay, there is a exotic dancer on the stage, and all the men in the audience are going crazy at this Harlem nightclub. Even Bond is going crazy with lust over this woman, who happened to be a black woman at the time. That is what we're seeing here, and that's what that is supposed to convey, because men sometimes act like dogs or pigs or other things when in certain scenarios. Okay?
Yeah,
and again, it's not presenting that flattering light, but it is presenting the men.
That is exactly
men of this time.
You hit on it exactly there. When an artist describes a scene, he means exactly what he says. They are choosing to be offended by it on behalf of a group of people, not considering the fact that this scene that you've described would be true regardless of the race of these individuals. Yep. He's describing an action and a situation of being.
Yes, it wasn't electric energy. I don't know who wrote that. We don't know who. I'd like to know who is editing and who is changing these lines. Obviously, it's not Ian Fleming. He is dead.
Right.
It's not like they can have him. Hey, can you change these words for the modern audience? No, they can't do that. He's dead. So I have problems with that in and of itself. But at least if the author is okaying the changes, that's way different than someone else coming in and changing the author's words while they're dead.
I see this as no different than when the Rolling Stones went on Ed Sullivan. And they wanted to do. Oh no! I'm sorry. The Doors. It was the Doors.
The Doors. Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because it was the Rolling Stones that did change their lyrics, but the Doors, they were told that line, "Girl, we can't get much higher." Yeah, we don't want a drug reference. So how about "Girl, we can't get much better."
Yeah, yes, I remember that.
And so what did Jim Morrison do? He looked right into the camera and said, "Higher." Well, you will never appear on Ed Sullivan again. I've already done Ed Sullivan. That's true. You should see, if you haven't seen it, check out the what was it? It was Oliver Stone, wasn't it?
Oliver Stone.
The Doors.
Val Kilmer as
Val Kilmer, absolutely. Yes. Pretty darn historically accurate. Definitely worth checking out.
Yeah. It's an interesting move, and I have to tell you, I feel like we've learned nothing. I feel like we're back.
No.
we're back to the 1950s, except they hate guys that look like me. Oh,
yeah. Actually, we're back to the 30s. It's like I said on my stream a couple weeks ago. This is the National Socialist Workers' Party of Germany throwing books onto to fires.
Anyway, let's go move on. I'll get to the most. Okay, in several of the books, including Thunderball 1961, Quantum of Solace 1960, and Goldfinger 1959, ethnicities have been removed. The edits of the U.S. edition of Live and Let Die were authorized by Fleming himself. Fleming died in 1964. Listen, if they're talking about the edits to the U.S. edition, that's fine. I don't know. I'll have to check the. I didn't have a chance to see that. I don't think that electric tension line was in the original book, U.S. or U.K. Ian Fleming Publications sold the Telegraph. We at Ian Fleming Publications reviewed the text of the original Bond books and decided our best course of action was to follow Ian's lead. We have made changes to Live and Let Die that he himself authorized. How do they know that he authorized these things?
I was going to say, so says them, based on what? I don't buy it. The man died in 64. I
Look, if this is them releasing an American edit from that time and just releasing that for the UK audience, that's different than them doing. But I know that's not what they're doing, because let's go on to the next paragraph. Right. Following Ian's approach, we looked at the instances of several racial terms across the books and removed a number of individual words or else swapped them for terms that are more accepted today, but in keeping with the period in which the books were written. We encourage people to read the books for themselves when the new paperbacks are published in April. I would encourage you to read the classic Bond books if you can get their hands on them.
Netter is actually working on getting me that, because I'm surprised that I hadn't gone out of my way to get those already. But I said, yeah, why don't you see how many of those you can get for me so I can read them in their original text.
I am working on other things. I'm not going to get into it on the stream right now, but I'm working on other ways of preserving this original text.
I bet I can guess. I'll
tell you later. Anyway, Variety. I'm going to tell you something though. I kept thinking e-book editions of these books. If you have like the Kindle version or something, theoretically, when these new versions come out, will your old version disappear? And
I was just going to say, if you have it on Kindle, they absolutely can change the version you have. Absolutely they can. This is why I say own physical media, because they can literally reach into your Kindle and change it. I have seen it happen with Spotify and these other what's the iTunes, where someone pays for and has in their collection a very specific live version of a song by a band that they like, and they go to listen to it again and it's been changed. It's a different version, and they can't get it back. This is why I constantly tell everyone, own physical media. Even if that means that you have to download it, record it off of your streaming device, whatever you have to do, get a hold of a copy of it for yourself that you put away that no one else can ever touch.
We're in a very weird age now, because we're in the age where they're pushing everything to go digital, but now things are becoming very censorious. So this is like a double whammy at the same time. I did read, like I said, I did read Live and Let Die a while back. I did enjoy the book a lot. I also read Casino Royale. I need to read the other Bond books. I've always meant to get around to reading them because they're well written. Ian Fleming, good writer.
Look, if you've never read these, because I have read these books, I just don't own copies of them, and we've talked about this before. If you have seen the movies and not read the books, sometimes they're completely different stories. I'm serious.
Auto Dread brings up a point. I was thinking the same thing. This reminds me a bit about Fahrenheit 451, 1984.
I was just thinking that. I was going to ask if you'd read Fahrenheit 451.
Yeah, I believe I have. I know I definitely saw the movie. I remember the part in the movie where he's talking to people who have memorized books.
Yep.
Because it's the only way.
In fact, they refer to themselves as those books.
As the books, and it's the only way to keep the books alive. And I guess they'll pass it down like their oral tradition to the next person that comes along, and until whatever regime is running society finally goes away. And I feel like we're sort of in that position now. Now, we don't luckily, we're not at the point where we would have to memorize the books. There are other ways of saving things now. It's hard to destroy information. You can buy the physical books, maybe figure out a way to store things digitally. I'm not going to get into details how to do that, except maybe next time. But
Fahrenheit 451, the title is predicated on the fact that 451 degrees Fahrenheit is the temperature at which pulp paper spontaneously combusts. That's the burning temperature of books. But the fact is that, we've come a long way from the time that Fahrenheit 451, was written. There are ways to preserve stuff that are not paper, right? As long as it's not online. If you've got a digital copy of it offline, you can protect it. The other idea behind Fahrenheit 451 was that you would live in houses where everything is fireproof for safety reasons. The only thing that wasn't was any kind of a paper product. So they'd come into your house, and the firemen weren't there to put out fires because fires never started because everything was fireproof. The firemen would come in to set fire to your entire house, and the only things that would burn were the books you had hidden.
It's disturbing, and we're basically there. I don't want to say we're not, but
we absolutely are. I said this 2 weeks ago. I said this is modern book burning, and then we see another one and another publisher and another publisher coming out and
I'm
doing
sorry.
This.
If you look at the amount of literature, especially from the 20th century, with offensive language in it, there's no end to it.
30 years ago, they were talking about doing this to Huck Finn and Tom Sawyer. And heaven forbid they ever do that, because you are literally erasing the reason for erasing it in the first place.
Now, to be fair, this is an English publisher, I'm assuming. These are owned in England. Now, I'm assuming that we're also going to get these edited versions over here in North America, because I noticed that there are Bond book re-releases coming out in the spring. I'm assuming it's these versions that are coming out in England right now. So,
at the risk of driving up the prices for the books that Netter is currently bidding on, I recommend, if you have any interest, get on eBay or wherever you get your books, get your copies, because some of the prices have already shot through the roof for older editions of James Bond books.
Well, another thing you can do, which is what I've done, is you can actually request that your public library, if you want to have them order copies of these books before it's too late, you can do that, and they'll stay on the shelves as long as they don't fall apart. And you can also do that with audio versions of these books. You can request that they be put on the shelf, and audiobooks takes a while for CDs to wear down, so they'll be on the shelves for a while. And and whatever you do, though, do not take the books home. Do not take the audiobooks home and copy them and make MP3s on your computer and then store them in a safe place. That is illegal. You cannot do that with the library audiobooks. Not that they'll ever be able to prove that you did that.
Let me rephrase what he just said. Don't even think about taking them home and making copies of them. That would be wrong. That's what he's saying. Just to be clear, just to get across.
It would be legally wrong, morally wrong. I don't know, because of what you're doing is trying to preserve the proper text from the publisher that is trying to destroy it.
No legal advice, no moral advice.
I'm just saying. I'm just throwing things in the air. You do not have to do any of these things.
We are not specifically advocating civil disobedience.
We are not.
But we're pointing out to you what the law is and what you would have to do to be civilly disobedient. Just saying.
I already have my set of hardcover Bond books. Those should last you a while. Take good care of them. Watch out for floods. Keep them on a high shelf.
Learn from experience, have you, Boomer?
Oh, my Tales from the Crypt library. And the Tales from the Crypt library, oddly enough, is almost a little history lesson when you read every Tales of the Crypt issue of how the censorship started happening in the 50s and how those comic books.
That is true. That is absolutely
you're
right.
Seeing it happening real time as you're reading it. You're reading Tales from the Crypt from the early days when they're just getting started to their heyday, and then like the little the little warnings where the editors start talking about the stuff in the news and the Senate and all these other things about stuff's going on, and then find the last issue where they say, and they say, well, now that these horror comics can no longer be sold, because basically no one's going to carry a comic book that didn't have the comics code, and that was what killed them. And he said, but I look forward to now the decreases in juvenile delinquency now that our horror comics are no longer on store shelves.
Right, right, exactly.
The editors said,
exactly.
It's ridiculous. We're in these moral panics. I end the law, save those books. Yeah. It's, as Troy says, own physical media. And what's really disturbing about this is Ian Fleming's dead. He doesn't have a say in this.
Yeah.
At least with those American edits, he did say, okay, you can take this out for the American.
Well, and here's the other thing, too. We're talking about translation, right? And I'm saying if someone wrote something in 64 or 50-something or whatever, whenever he wrote the book, he wrote he wrote in the language of the day. If you start changing that language, you change the meaning. When people do translations from one language to another, it's very, very challenging. Well, you know this from anime. How some dubs and some translations are better than others.
Yes.
How you may not be able to translate, literally. You don't want to translate literally. You have to say, well, what was the author trying to say? What shade of meaning? And especially if you use a Japanese idiom, there may not be a translation for that idiom. You've got to say, well, what idiom would an American use that would mean basically the same thing as that Japanese one? And the actual words could be completely different, right? Now, here's an example. Two languages that are meant to be the same, right? For the most part, if a British person speaks, you will understand what they are saying. However, if you're reading in a book, hey, buddy, can I bum a fag off of you? Well, in Britain,
different meaning. Yeah.
They know entirely that that's just somebody in a colloquial way asking for a cigarette. Over here, people get bent out of shape, start burning books, freaking out, canceling people. It's mass hysteria.
Well, to be fair, too, again, moral panics happen all over the world. Like, for instance, this thing is happening over in England now, but it's matching to what we're doing. So I'm not going to stand on some high horse and say that we're better, because I know the censor books are going to come over here. Oddly enough, I did watch, who ran to the defense of Ian Fleming and not censoring these books of all people? It was Whoopi Goldberg on The View.
She has a couple times done that. She's said that a couple times about different things, and that doesn't mean she's in favor of these things. She's saying we should not forget this stuff. Well,
fine,
yeah,
and that's hey,
Skipper Kenner, an American Indian. Here I am.
Funny. Okay, store paper in plastic boxes. It's funny. That's what saved my books that were in my storage, because I actually did have those in plastic bins just by accident. That's happened to have that was what I had available, so I put them in plastic bins, and all my books on how to write, they got saved during this thing, which was good because they're useful. At least, But yeah, the books, unfortunately, on the bottom of my bookshelf did not get saved. But what can you do? Yeah. And it's funny. All the big art books were on the bottom because I always put the heaviest books on the bottom of the shelf because I didn't want the shelf tipping over. But what can you do?
Well, what you do is you anchor them to the wall so that they never will tip over. Although then when you have to rip the wall out, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, all the better. There's a way to do that too.
Goodness. Connie Cleary, welcome to the chat. We're just talking. Let's move on. But
wait a minute. Before we do, you were and this is me trying to be clever and give you a pivot point. But you were talking about Tales from the Crypt. Did you ever read when you were younger Goosebumps?
No.
Oh, you didn't? Well, it's going to be too late now because they're the other book that's being censored.
Here's the funny thing. I think Goosebumps came when I was just out of the age range for them. I think at that point, if I wanted to read horror or watch horror, I would just watch the adult stuff. Tales from the Crypt I read. I did love those Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark books by Alvin Schwartz. I did like those. Of course, those are pretty creepy even if you're an adult reading.
Even Skipper Kenner's YouTube handle is funny. Luddites are us.
Hey, that's a good handle. I'm a Luddite on certain things.
Yeah, you are.
Something.
That's why we call you Agent Boomer.
least I'm not completely against digital media, although I do understand that yes, it can be taken away from you. That's why I never usually try to pay more than a rental price for something.
Yeah. If you think of it that way, if you think of it as when you get a game on stream or whatever, you're leasing it, you're not buying it.
Oh, forget it. Games. I hate to say this. I don't care if you're buying physical games right now. Everything's digital right now. Half the time when you buy a physical game, especially when it's on a disc, you're downloading half it from the internet anyway.
Yeah.
Also, the consoles, they have to be set up usually online, even though they don't have to be online all the time. Usually that initial setup, I think they have to be online. I don't think you can be completely detached from the internet with a modern console.
There is a happy medium on that I can appreciate, because if they want to have some sort of a copy guard, okay, I got to log on to register, okay, fine. As long as I don't have to be online to play the game, as long as I can now, disconnect from the internet and play my game on a legacy computer, fine. But that's not true of all games. Some games you literally do have to be online in order to play them.
It's the age we're living in. I don't know what to say about it.
You will own nothing and you will be happy. Eat the bugs.
Buy mini consoles when they come out if you enjoy old school games. That's what I would recommend, because they're not connected to the internet. But let's go over to Goosebumps. When children of the 90s were not clutching wands outside bookshops at midnight in anticipation of the latest Harry Potter, they were terrified by R.L. Stein's tales of disappearing campers, cursed cameras, or haunted theme parks. Now, one of the world's most successful children's author after J.K. Rowling is reported to have edited many of his titles to remove references to weight, mental health, or ethnicity. The Goosebumps author, who has sold over 300 million copies of the 62-book series, the second highest-selling series ever after The Boy Wizard, is re-releasing ebook versions through publisher called Scholastic, which include over 100 edits across more than a dozen titles, according to the Times. One character is described as cheerful in the new series, as opposed to plump. Those are two different things, but whatever.
Yeah, that does not mean the same thing. That's not even an attempt to say the same thing.
Well, another character who had 6 chins is now described as at least 6 feet 6. Isn't that 6'6"?
That also does not mean the same thing.
No. It's a completely different thing, but whatever. Other references to violence or the attractiveness of female characters are also said to have been sanitized. Wow! What? These are horror books.
I know.
What are you doing?
Well, we don't want to hurt the feelings of the vicious monster. I'm just seriously. I'm at the point where I'm waiting for Hellraiser to be edited to remove Butterball, so that because that's fat shaming the demon.
Of course, yeah. In a reissued version of Bride of the Living Dummy, a ventriloquist dummy comes to life, no longer knocks a girl unconscious with a love tap, but uses a magic spell instead. What's a love tap? Like a little punch to the jaw, but it's like a light top punch.
I don't know, because I didn't read the book and I didn't read it in context.
It's a colloquialism.
But what they're basically getting at is the difference between clocking someone over the head and using a magic spell. And I'm sorry, the whole point of horror is, and I've said this many times. My mother used to say this too. When it's something that's supernatural, it's sometimes kind of hard to get into. But when it's like a real person going around killing people, that's kind of scary, because that kind of shit can really happen.
These are horror books, and of course, I forgot women can't be attractive in anything anymore, because that.
Oh, and they can't be victims either, apparently, which really sets up our little girls when they go out into the world and think they can just run around and do whatever they want by themselves in a bad neighborhood, unarmed, with no backup. Go for it, because you have a moral right to do it, and if something happens to you, well, that shouldn't have happened. But you're going to have to live with that trauma. But we're not going to talk about the trauma, because we're going to desensitize the world to things like that.
Anyway, other edits are said to include a character's African American heritage no longer being mentioned in one of the titles, and description of a group as very overweight supplemented with huge. Couple issues with this. Character's African American heritage no longer mentioned in one of the titles. I don't understand. Was it Son of the Witch Doctor or something? What were they going on about with the title here? I don't know. It's okay to be of that heritage. Americans are of many different heritages, and you can mention them on the page. It's okay. it's you know.
No, we're and see, this is the other thing too. So as not to offend certain people, we're going to completely erase certain people.
But
that's what's really happening.
Want us to be colorblind, but now they're telling the author to be colorblind.
Oh yeah.
Descriptions of I don't understand this. Okay, description of group is very overweight and supplemented with huge. Again, very different things. I noticed too this article, and maybe it's just me, but I'm pretty certain that punctuation, like a period, comes before the quote when you're ending a sentence with a quote.
Yep.
So that's happening a lot of. Okay, that's just me nitpicking. In the curse of
that's not nitpicking. There's what's correct and there's what's incorrect.
In the curse of Camp Cold Lake, meanwhile, a reference to one of the boys' wolf whistling at the camp leader has been changed to whistled loudly. Again, he finds the camp leader attractive. That's why he wolf whistled. We're not saying it's correct. Oh, whatever. It's a kid. This is just ridiculous. What? Several.
Take a pause. Let's highlight Skipper Kenner. He makes an excellent point. I'm hoping they re-release Upton Sinclair's The Jungle without the poverty-shaming income reference, and maybe they could remove the references to meat products and make it vegan-friendly.
Yeah,
that's what, by satire, that is exactly the point that we're trying to make here, man. Thanks so much for doing that. And Connie Cleary, hello. How you doing? I'm so glad you're here.
Hear Stan Lee's story about how his Spider-Man comic got censored because it was under the Comics Code Authority. He made a point that someone came up to him and said, there's a lot of problems with drugs in America. Could you do like an anti-drug storyline in one of the Spider-Man stories, or be anti-drug messaging? And Stan Lee's like, look, I know you're not going to reach the kids by preaching at them don't do drugs, but he decided, I tell you what, as a side part of a story, Peter Parker has a friend, and his friend gets addicted to drugs, and he thinks he can fly, and Spider-Man has to stop him from jumping off a building because he's on. Yeah,
that's actually, and that's the kind of thing that you used to see it on the after-school specials all the time and stuff like that.
Exactly. But the trouble was the publisher or whatever, the Comics Code says, no, you can't release this issue. Why not? Because you mentioned drugs in the issue. And he says, I'm not telling the kids to take drugs. It's an anti-drug element within the story. I'm trying to tell the kids not to take the drugs.
We're literally combating the thing that you are trying to fight here. We're on the same side here, dumbass.
I think Marvel got so annoyed by that they released that issue without the Comics Code approval and just released it on shelves and saw what happened.
Well, and actually, it's interesting that a lot of people focus on the history of the Comics Code and the moral panic and all that kind of stuff. Not enough people look at how it was repealed, because it was a lot of things like that where they started to realize how ridiculously stupid it was, and publishers started to go, okay, you know what? We're going to go ahead and publish this story without the code. And people started saying maybe the code was a little dumb, but it's also another one of those things. It's a little bit more nuanced than that. It was not something, being forced on them by the government or anything like that. If anything, it was something that the comic book companies were doing and putting on themselves so as to avoid being censored by some other entity.
It was. They were worried that the government was going to step in. And so they said, the government basically says, okay, we're not going to censor pull your things, but we do recommend that you maybe your industry designs a body so this doesn't keep coming up. And that's when the Comics Code was invented, because the comics industry said we'd rather be doing the censoring ourselves than the government doing it for us. I think that was what the idea was.
And then Skipper Kenner goes on that whole drug, and he's right about this too. The whole drug set of arcs was just painful. G.I. Joe did it. Even Captain America tried. It was ridiculous.
Yes.
Green Arrow's sidekick was addicted to heroin. Actually, that was not a bad storyline.
Yeah.
And Tony Stark was an alcoholic. Kind of nodded to in the movies, but they didn't have the balls to go at
Robert Downey Jr. wanted them to do that storyline, but they didn't do it. But
well, that would have, and consider, and I said this when he was cast. I'm like, this seems a little on the nose.
He was perfect casting for
wasn't he? Yeah, he was.
The news follows the backlash after Puffin UK attempted censored release of another children's author Roald Dahl, only to backtrack the uncensored versions. Okay, Puffin had removed references to weight, height, mental health, gender, color of the series. Oh, I forgot to mention prior. Several mentions of the word crazy have reportedly been removed across the Goosebumps series, and a character wondering if a monster intends to keep him as a quote-unquote slave has also been altered. Slavery has been around for thousands of years. It's in the Bible.
Here's
all different backgrounds were kept as slaves. It's not to diminish the.
Here's the worst thing about things like that. You remove slavery from literature, people don't learn from it. They don't know how bad it was. And as Santayana said, if you don't learn from history, you are destined to repeat it. So it's like they want to set us up to make all the same mistakes again. We want to subjugate the future to spare the feelings of the people of today.
Stein and Scholastic did not respond to a request for comment. No kidding. I do want to say my main thought of reading this is R.L. Stein, if you don't care about your own work, why should I?
Well, that's true. That was the one thing I was going to point out. Whereas with Ian Fleming, we were talking about someone who's been dead for decades.
He's not
this is Stein doing it himself. I mean, he's basically George Lucasing here. I still have a problem with that.
Either he's doing it or the publisher says, we would really like you to make these edits. He may have just signed off on it. I don't know how involved he was.
Well, I was going to say, that's fine, but then I would love to see a J.K. Rowling's publisher try to tell her to change something. You know what she's going to say.
I know what she's going to say. And I'm going to say this too. Horror.
She's got more balls than R.L. Stein does.
Let's be blunt. Horror as a genre, I'm sorry, it's not PC. It's not okay. It
was never meant to be.
It's the genre that always gets into trouble. That's kind of its point. So you can't really sanitize
comedy and horror.
Comedy and horror both.
Thank you.
Yes.
Eat cookies. Calm down.
Yeah, Netter's giving me cookies to make me feel better.
That's why we're getting this over with at the beginning of the stream, though.
Oh yeah. Good point. No, she made some. I haven't had cookies in a long time because we, ever since the coof, I haven't had the guys physically over for D&D, so I haven't had fresh baked cookies. But she's sending some to work for a coworker, so she made some for me too. You got some cookies. Just a little pause to take a peek behind the curtain, everybody. But and Skipper Kenner says, "Hi, Netter."
Did you know I went to a mid-tier restaurant recently called Chicken Salad Chick? Have you heard of it?
No, but they're gonna have to change the name. That's offensive.
They probably will. Oh no. But the point is, it's a restaurant that's all based around different types of chicken salad.
Sure.
Like there's like the classic Carol, which is like your celery mayonnaise base, but they have others that have like fruit and nuts in them. They have others like they have a southern one that has egg in it. And the interesting thing is, I got it to go thing is I'm going to try.
Wait, you said there's a southern one that's chicken and egg? What do they call it? The mother and child reunion?
I forgot what they call it. I don't have time to look it up. It's got dill pickle in it too or something. Or sweet pickle.
See if anyone in the chat gets how offensive that joke was.
Okay, I thought it was the chicken and the egg. I thought you were going to do the whole chicken and the egg bit.
No. Mother and child reunion.
Mother and child reunited. That's disturbing. Anyway, especially considering both are chopped up.
Yes, exactly right.
Let me think about what I was going to say next. But I brought up this story because with my little meal, and they didn't have to do this, they give you a little shortbread cookie with it, with icing. It was actually very good.
Ooh.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, yeah, and Netter makes really good shortbread cookies, too. Yeah. Real quick, because it's related, would it be okay if I shared that video that I showed you before the stream? Because I feel like it kind of relates. The setup here, guys, and I'm playing it directly from my PC, but I've actually shared it out to my Rumble page because I figured it was just trouble waiting to happen if I put it up on YouTube.
I like it.
But
well, let's share it. Let's share it.
Yeah, let me. Where is it? Share entire screen. Here we go. And the setup that I need to share is that you probably know, although we're not doing an article on it, but you know that Disney Plus is doing their Wendy and Peter Pan thing with female Lost Boys. But if you've never read the original story or you haven't seen the original play, you don't realize how ridiculous that is. And here, let me demonstrate. Wait, can you hear it?
No.
I didn't share the sound. Wait, that's important because you need to hear the dialogue. Let me unshare it and reshare it. Present, share screen, entire screen, share system audio. This is what an old fart like me has to do. I have to say these things out loud to get it right. Mm-hmm. There we go. Okay. And now.
Where do you live now?
With the Lost Boys.
Who are they?
They're the children who fall out of their prams. If they're not claimed in 7 days, they're sent far away to Neverland. I'm captain.
Aren't there any lost girls?
Oh, no. Girls are much too clever to fall out of their prams.
Are you?
Lost Boys.
Every last one of us.
But you're not all boys. So?
Women have earned the right to be as stupid as men. Congratulations.
The author was actually complimenting girls. He was giving a nice little, they're too clever to fall.
Yeah.
She's saying something nice about women. But
oh, girls are too clever to fall out of their prams. And just for our American audience, a pram is like the baby buggy,
like the
you know.
Yeah,
like that, exactly. Yeah. Well, no, the thing on wheels that you take the kids out in. It's called a baby buggy, right? Or I mean, in Britain it's called a pram. It's I don't know what they call it in the United States, but we don't use the term
baby
pram.
Buggy.
Yeah, baby buggy. Yeah, exactly.
Rubber baby
stroller.
Or a stroller, exactly. They call it a stroller. They call it a pram, you know. We call it a truck, they call it a lorry. You know, they have different words for these things. And that's why translation is problematic when you're dealing with, even other countries that use the same language. But yeah, it's like, oh, no, girls are too clever. Well, apparently, except for these girls. They're all as stupid as boys. Congratulations, Disney. Like I said, you've come a long way, girls.
Disney.
And this is why second wave feminists are getting pissed about this stuff. It's like, do you understand? We fought and won these battles already. Now you're taking us back.
Speaking of second wave feminists, let's go to Harry Potter and J.K. Rowling.
Oh, that was actually, I didn't even plan that. That was a good one.
There you go. Cookies, who told you to eat my cookies? Oh, yeah, Jingle All the Way. If you want a funny commentary, check out Soundtrack's Birdman's channel. Big Al was on with us, too. We did a rewatch of Jingle All the Way on Christmas time, and that movie is not good. I'm sorry.
No, it's not.
I've defended it over the years, and watching it with them, I realized it's not a good movie.
There's a worse one. Yeah, there's a worse Christmas movie, Christmas with the Cranks.
I haven't seen that, but
don't.
And I like Tim Allen, but I have a feeling it's bad.
Yeah.
Okay, so Harry Potter star Ivana Lynch. I wish people would give J.K. Rowling more grace and listen to her. Uh-oh. And my first thought of reading this article is like, she's canceled next. They're gonna come after her.
You know, but maybe she's taking a play from Rowling's book and having a little bit more backbone and a little bit more character. And honestly, I do believe that not only future generations, but the current generation going forward will have much more respect for people who have some strength of character.
Ivana Lynch is the latest. She's an Irish actress, by the way. She played Luna Lovegood in the Harry Potter movies.
I didn't know she was Irish. Is she affecting a different accent in the movie? Because that was not an Irish accent that she used.
Maybe that's what she was doing. It just said Irish accent in there. Yeah,
wow, interesting.
Evanna Lynch is the latest Harry Potter star to comment on the ongoing controversy regarding author and franchise creator J.K. Rowling's gender beliefs, which have been routinely criticized for being anti-transgender. Lynch starred in the Harry Potter film franchise as the perky Luna Lovegood. Back in 2020, Lynch deleted her Twitter account after commenting on Rowling's controversy. The actor said, "It's irresponsible to discuss such a delicate topic as transgender rights on Twitter, and I wish Rowling wouldn't." But she added, "That said, as a friend and admirer of Jo, I can't forget what a generous and loving person she is." Lynch received blowback at the time for supporting Rowling. In a new interview with The Telegraph, Lynch opened up about her relationship with the controversial author. The two first linked up long before Lynch joined the Harry Potter movies. The actor was 11 and living with anorexia and wrote a letter to Rowling about her struggle. The author responded and sent Lynch incredible wise letters while she was in recovery. She hadn't even joined the cast yet, but J.K. Rowling was sending her letters. That's very interesting. "I was very naive when I was dragged into that conversation," Lynch said. Lynch now said about originally commenting on Rowling's anti-trans controversy in 2020. "I didn't even know there were two sides. I had a view of like good and bad. I do have compassion for both sides of the argument. I know what it was like to be a teenager who hated my body so much that I wanted to crawl out of my skin. So I have great compassion for trans people, and I don't want to add to their pain. I do also think it's important that J.K. Rowling has been amplifying the voices of detransitioners," she continued. "I had this impulse to go, let's all just stop talking about it. And I think probably I'm a bit braver now about having uncomfortable conversations." Lynch said the backlash against Rowling has surprised her, especially when she wrote her essay revealing experiences in her unhappy first marriage. "I just felt that her character has always been to advocate for the most vulnerable members of society. The problem is that there is a disagreement over who's the most vulnerable. I do wish people would just give her more grace and listen to her." Lynch's Harry Potter co-stars remain divided over the Rowling controversy. Daniel Radcliffe immediately opposed Rowling's views in an open letter in which he proclaimed transgender women are women. "The reason I felt very, very much as though I needed to say something when I did was because, particularly since finishing Potter, I met so many queer and trans kids and young people who had a huge amount of identification with Potter on that," Radcliffe told IndieWire last year about speaking out against Rowling. "And so seeing them heard on that day, I was like, I wanted them to know that not everybody in the franchise felt that way, and that was really important." Voldemort actor Ray Fiennes, on the other hand, has slammed the blowback against Rowling as disgusting and appalling. Helena Bonham Carter, who starred as the villainous Bellatrix Lestrange in the 4 Harry Potter films, also called the backlash horrendous and a load of bollocks. "It's been taken to the extreme, the judgmentalism of people," Bonham Carter told the Times UK last year. "She's allowed her opinion, particularly if she suffered abuse. Everybody carries their own history of trauma and forms their opinions from the trauma, and you have to respect where people come from in their pain. You don't have to agree on everything. That would be insane and boring. She's not meaning it aggressively. She's just saying something out of her own experience." Rowling remains unconcerned about how the backlash might affect her legacy. The author is the subject of the recently launched podcast series, The Witch Trials of J.K. Rowling, in which she's addressed the anti-trans controversy. What has interested me in recent years, particularly in social media, is when fans say, "You've ruined your legacy. Oh, you could have been a beloved forever, but you chose to say this," Rowling said on the series. "And I think you could not have misunderstood me more profoundly. I never set out to upset anyone. However, I was not uncomfortable with getting off my pedestal."
Yeah. She honestly does not care about her legacy. She's more concerned about, some very important issues. She's more concerned about women being erased, and maybe children having things done to them that is irreversible, that can affect the rest of their lives. She's willing to put that reputation on the line for something far more important. I do think that, and I know that, we would probably be canceled for talking about things like eating disorders, but, we can't even say the word crazy apparently anymore. But, growing up in the 70s, I remember when Karen Carpenter died. And I was a huge Carpenter fan as a kid. I thought she had a beautiful voice. And when she died, it was crushing. And to find out that she died, basically because she starved herself to death.
Yeah.
And then they did a special dramatization about her life and what she went through and how she had a little extra weight as a younger woman, as kids do. They used to call it baby fat or whatever.
Yeah, you gain, you lose weight. It happens in life, yeah.
Exactly. But, because she was in the spotlight then and, she was pushed by the industry, you got to lose weight, you got to be attractive, blah 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 blah.
And I'll say this: the tabloids don't help with that stuff when they take uncandid pictures.
Always been true. It's been true for as long as we've had Hollywood. It's still true today. Don't kid yourself. Yeah. And so what did she developed an eating disorder. She starved herself. If she did eat something she felt she shouldn't have, she'd make herself sick. It caused her to lose so much weight that her organs were starting to shut down. Finally, somebody got through to her and said, "Look, you are going to die. You can't lose any more weight. You have to understand you have a messed up impression of yourself. You look at yourself in the mirror and you're not seeing reality. You're seeing an illusion." And she was actually getting over it. She was actually getting over the eating disorder. She was starting to eat, but it had done such damage to her heart that it gave out and she died. And that's what's even worse. Like she was on the rebound, but it was too late. But here's the so apparently this Ivana Lynch had a similar kind of eating disorder. So what do you do when you have an eating disorder? Do you want the whole world to change their opinions of weights and whatever? No! You take responsibility for yourself. You say, you know what, I don't care what you think about me. I'm going to work with my doctor to be a healthy weight, and if I look good, great. If I don't look good, to you, that's too damn bad. And I'm a singer. I don't need to look good. Yeah. And, well, that was true for Karen Carpenter. I'm speaking to a specific person. But now we have people going, well, I'm overweight. And I want everyone to find me beautiful. So you must accept me as not only beautiful, but believe that this is healthy. And the doctors are going, but it's not healthy. No, that's fat shaming. So much for believing the science, I guess.
Yeah.
And I see the same thing happening with this whole gender issue. It is in very many ways, from a psychological standpoint, the same kind of a disorder. It's a body dysmorphia disorder. And we are saying, okay, we're going to accept the crazy and allow you to do whatever you want to yourself. And if somebody, had done that with Ivana Lynch and said, yeah, you have a right to starve yourself to death. Go right ahead. Keep starving yourself. She'd be dead right now. Just saying.
We're going to learn a lot of... I'm wondering decades from now how people are going to look at these current times and think about what we're rethinking on many issues. That's what I think is going to happen. Kind of like how we look at people in the past and think how backwards they were, for doing this.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when you look at Victorians eating live tapeworms and, things like that. But then again, how is it any different today when you got people putting silicone into their bodies and injecting themselves with botulism in their faces?
It's interesting because I think Courtney Cox was doing that and now she stopped, and I actually think she looks a lot better for not injecting that stuff into her.
But I'll be honest, she would look even better still if she'd never done it.
Probably.
We were talking about this with Raquel Welch, right?
Yeah.
She got to be a pretty advanced age, and if she did have some work done, it was pretty darn subtle because she looked pretty damn great.
Netter offers cookies for everyone.
Virtual cookies for all.
Chocolate chip. Okay, for the win. Yes. Okay. Anyway, what did I want to mention though? I wanted to mention something else about this though. Oh, it slipped my mind. Never mind.
Do you want me to pivot on this? I could pivot us into the next one. So I feel the best argument for someone like J.K. Rowling. Somebody help me out. Someone in the chat, tell me where is this quote from? But they say nothing succeeds like success, and I think J.K. Rowling is successing herself right to the bank and laughing every step of the way.
Yeah, I think Skipper Kenner made that point. But here's a bounding into rumor TV show based on the Harry Potter spin-off game Hogwarts Legacy in development at HBO Max. Makes total sense. You have a whole time period that you can play around with and base a series off of. You don't have to be beholden to the books or necessarily. You just
there is a huge overlap, and I know this from experience, between Hogwarts fans, you know, Harry Potter fans, whatever, and the steampunk community. So when I heard that they were doing this game set in an open world, set, at the turn of the 20th century, I was like, this is going to be good for all those steampunkers out there that are into this stuff.
Controversy creates cash, including manufactured controversy. Hogwarts Legacy, the prequel fantasy game that spun out of the Harry Potter books and films, gets a cold reception from a segment of critics who now despise creator J.K. Rowling. But it's doing well sales-wise with gamers, regardless of the platform. Some of them became Harry Potter fans overnight, eager to catch up on their reading and movie viewing. Controversy creates cash, including manufactured controversy. Hogwarts Legacy, the prequel fantasy game, spun out of the Harry Potter books and films. Oh, I'm sorry, it's bounding in the comics, so I'm repeating myself. Okay. But anyway, basically what they're saying is there's a rumor going around that it's going to get its own TV series on HBO Max. I did mention release for the PS5, Xbox Series X, and PC on February 10th. It sold a very strong 12 million units to rake in an impressive 850 million globally in just 2 weeks. That is Warner Bros. Games' biggest launch ever, and the releases for PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch are still on the horizon. DLC expansions, however, are not. I'm not sure what that means. Does that mean the old consoles aren't getting the DLC expansions? Well, regardless,
I don't know enough. I don't know about DLC except for on PC. I don't know to the extent of which consoles are even able to upgrade. That's your department.
You know what DLC basically is? Do you remember when you used to have PC games in the past and you could buy an expansion disc for it?
Yeah. No, and I know because I still play PC games.
In theory, that's what DLC is supposed to be. It's supposed to be.
Sometimes it's add-on of like new outfits and stuff like that. Or like some of the download, and this is mostly from watching Mr. Matchstick do playing of Arkham Asylum and whatnot. You can have the Batman in the Adam West outfit or the '89 outfit. You can have the Batmobile from the '89 or from the Adam West or the cartoon series or whatever. So, but there's also the fact that sometimes these games are released with a bug or two, and you need to download fixes. A patch.
Not surprising that Warner Brothers wants to make a show over a profitable game. They need the money. Age Boomer, I think they are forgoing DLC to start development on a sequel. That makes sense, actually. It's funny that there's a new Zelda game coming out for the Nintendo Switch. It's the sequel to Breath of the Wild. It was originally supposed to be DLC, but it just became too huge to be DLC. So
I want to ask, and I don't know if you know this or not, Boomer, but maybe someone in the chat does. Is there a feeling that there even needs to be any kind of an expansion to this current game? And how is it as far as bugginess goes? Does it even need a great deal of patching to fix anything?
Most games, and I'll be blunt, it happens more with American, Western developers than the Japanese ones. They have bugs in them. But from what I've heard, I don't think it's anything game-breaking. People seem to be enjoying the game. I'll be curious to see how the last-gen versions turn out, because you have, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and even Nintendo Switch. They're making a version for that. And, of course, these are less powerful hardware compared to what's out there now. But I think also they're still very widely used hardware, and they want to make the game good. Whatever platform it's on, so I'll be curious to see how those versions run. It looks like they are taking their time though to make them each distinct, so we'll see.
Okay.
All right, but and then we have one last article. This is kind of a sad article, but
I'm getting it.
this is cancel culture. We talked about this on your own stream, and this is a VTuber. You know those Japanese actresses that play on that look like anime characters on their streams, and they play
Yes,
games
exactly.
and such. So of course Harry Potter's big in Japan. You know what's interesting? I learned about VTubers. One of the reasons why they play a lot of American games or like Western developed games is because originally the Japanese developers would, copyright strike them and stuff, but like the American developers wouldn't for streaming the games. So that's why they ended up doing a lot of the American games, like
Makes
they
sense.
play games like Grand Theft Auto, where they
Yeah.
which is
I'll tell you
hilarious.
what. And it was Grand Theft Auto that Mr. Magic was sending me clips of, and you'd hear these Asian girls playing the game and making comments. It was so funny. I mean, you got these cutesy little girls saying these cutesy little things as they're playing a guy blowing the crap out of somebody
like a
with a
hardcore gangster
bazooka.
video game.
Yeah.
And it's these anime. It's just funny. It's
So sorry, I blew you up. You
I know,
die
stuff
now.
like that. Yes, it's just ridiculous. But anyway, this is a sad story though. YouTube content creator and VTuber Amano Pikami, also known as Kettle, due to her high pitched laugh, has announced that they're graduating from their current partnership with the Why is it they're graduating and then it's her high pitched laugh?
They're not even consistent with their use of pronouns.
Okay, has announced that she is graduating from. Okay, they're. I'll just read what the article says.
Yeah.
Has announced that they're graduating from their current partnership with the VOM's project after following a controversy related to Hogwarts Legacy. While graduating doesn't technically mean full retirement for a VTuber, historically it's equivalent. As such, Pikami's fans are understandably mourning one of their favorite YouTube streamers, and unfortunately looking for blame in a situation where nothing is particularly clear. Amano Pikami first started streaming as her usual current character in March 2020. Her popularity was sudden and rare, outpacing her peers at VOM's project and reaching 100,000 subscribers in just 5 months. Since then, she's begun streaming on Twitch, debuted multiple new costumes and models, including her Isekai Pikami persona, shared personal experiences like her cat becoming ill, and much more. In recent months, Pikami's content has become more sparse, though the reasons why haven't been shared publicly. On Wednesday, March 1st, Pikami announced that she would end all activities as of March 31st. She thanks all her fans and followers, as well as the VOMS project, for supporting her since she started her VTuber career. Pikami also apologized for making such a sudden and sad announcement. Until March 31st, Pikami said she will continue to do streams and videos like normal, so she hopes everyone can still have a lot of fun. While Pikami doesn't provide an explanation for her graduation, fans are alleging that a recent controversy played a role in her retirement. Pikami announced that she would be streaming Hogwarts Legacy as part of a regular stream on February 7th. However, this was met with hostility by many followers due to Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling's transphobic views. According to this article, transphobic views and political efforts. Pikami would cancel the stream and say she just wanted to play the game, not that she supported anything by doing so. Pikami has kept off of social media since. What is clear about the situation is that it isn't what anyone wanted. Pikami has long been one of the VTuber scene's kindest and most warmest creators, ever thankful for all the support she received. How much the Hogwarts Legacy controversy influenced the decision for Pikami to graduate isn't clear, but that it will always be the precursor to her graduation is nothing anyone wanted. Not only will Pikami no longer stream as part of the VOMS project starting March 31st, but all of her content will be deleted on that date as well. It's unclear if that's Pikami's personal choice, part of her contract with the VOMS project, or what. But it's the unfortunate reality of the situation. Hopefully, VTuber organizations on YouTube and Twitch will learn from the situation and work to make sure VTubers are better supported so that it doesn't happen again. So, I guess if you want to save her content, you're going to have to get creative and figure out a way to backlog it because it's all going to vanish.
And if you are a creator yourself, don't get into these contractual situations. Keep putting out your own stuff. Yes, you have to do all the work yourself and you have to promote yourself, but you don't have to answer to anybody.
Yes, and I think it's very obvious to me that this was due to the fact that she wanted to play a game of Hogwarts Legacy on her stream, and she got targeted by certain quote-unquote activists that, attacked
If you
her
want to
on
watch
YouTube.
somebody playing Hogwarts Legacy, especially a female, 2 suggestions. On Twitch, Melanie Mack.
Yes.
Her YouTube channel, which I don't know if it contains any gaming content. Melanie Mack Go Boom is a great pop culture and political commentary channel. And the Hijabi Gamer on YouTube also is, I don't know if she's already started streaming or she said she was going to start streaming Hogwarts Legacy. She is also definitely worth checking out. Very young, but she also has some political content on her channel as well.
Hold on once.
What's up?
Oh, just hold on.
Maybe people should demand that everyone pick a side on an issue that some famous person took a stand on. Yeah. Because if you don't, you're siding with whoever they consider the bad guy to be.
Well, she didn't want to get involved in this. Okay?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, too. She wanted to play a friggin' game. This
Based
game
on a very
has...
popular franchise.
Yeah.
Harry Potter.
Sorry, that the author, did something you didn't like. Get over it,
Where is Warner Brothers in all this? Because this is not going to go away anytime soon.
Well,
are they going to take a stand?
Warner Brothers seems to be going full steam ahead because it's making them money. And they are not taking a stand on it either. And I think more and more companies need to start doing this. Yeah. I remember how many cartoons and commercials and so forth include Flight of the Valkyrie. Dun 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 dun. Well, they all need to be canceled now because that's Wagner. And Wagner was real big with the National Workers' Socialist Party in Germany. I'm sorry, this one thing does not have anything to do with the other, Yeah. And who's acceptable today and has acceptable views today, those views may not be acceptable tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll see. Like I say, Warner Brothers, at least at the moment.
Skipper Kenner, don't you blaspheme in here. Don't you blaspheme in here. He says no canceling the Blues Brothers.
That's Universal. That's a different studio, so I don't know.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, good old Melanie Mack. We love Melanie Mack here.
She's such a cutie. She really is.
Yeah, she's big on the video games too. It's funny hearing her talk. She was talking about you should check out her video on the Nebula redesigning Guardians 3.
I did.
3. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which I raised an eyebrow and I'm like, let's see what happens when this movie comes out and see what's going on here.
Well, and a couple people have commented on what's her name?
Karen Gillian.
Karen Gilliam, yeah. What she said about it. And, taking at face value, it's like, okay, fair enough. If that's true, that's true. But, others have said that may be how she posed, but nobody said, yeah, let's get a few other poses, I mean, they just went with that. Okay. But
she's like one of the most feminine actresses out there. I don't understand.
Well, and they've pointed out even how on a different poster where she's wearing that form-fitting rubber suit,
yes.
She looks very feminine. In fact, I would argue artificially feminine, just like, some of these superhero costumes,
right.
give you additional definition.
What?
Oh, come on. When you're wearing that thick of rubber, But, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Zachary Levi doesn't have a bod that I would kill for. But
he's not Captain Marvel huge.
Captain Marvel muscles on there is a little bit of an add-on,
It's funny because when they originally were going to cast the adult Captain Marvel, I think they gave Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson the choice, and I was thinking, when I think of if you're a boy, what do you want to turn into? You're going to want to turn into Dwayne Johnson because you're this huge bulging guy, you know. It's like, but
at the same time,
he does look like Black Adam.
He knew it,
yeah,
knew it. Yeah,
he looks just like the comic book character, but yeah, wish the movie had been a bit better. But oh well.
Well, I think it was a bad setup because it really should have been Black Adam. Actually, they should have done Black Adam first, and then. I almost said Captain Marvel, Shazam, whatever.
I argued I liked Hawkman and Dr. Fate, and I might have liked to see them in their own movie and figure out who these characters were before we threw them into this thing. But
yeah,
like you said, the Snyderverse has always been about throwing us into the.
Putting the cart in front of the horse, giving us the story they want to tell without taking the time to do the appropriate setup.
Yeah. So anyway, let's go to the next article.
We're going to shift to Ghostbusters, huh?
Yeah, let's shift to Ghostbusters. Oh yeah, this is the one I sent you. I remember now. Yep. Ghostbusters Afterlife 2 set photo teases the return of a beloved location.
Yep,
What
I've
could
seen
that
these.
location be? Let's find out. You can click on the article, I guess.
Considering the fact that the working title for the movie is Ghostbuster Firehouse, you know.
I thought it was the library. They're going to go back to the New York Library. Remember? The New York Public Library.
I'll tell you what, they really should. I think that's kind of necessary because, yes, I do want to see them go back to Ray's bookstore and stuff like that, but I would not be surprised if they don't have to visit the archives at the library. They really, really should.
Be funny if that ghost is still there. In fact, if memory serves, I think in the video game they did a few years back, you had to go after that ghost again, the one from the library. But
well, and I've heard a lot of fan theories about that ghost, and if you think about that scene, right, where they go in, they see her, and shh. Get her! Get her. That's your solution. What
just so you know, that horrible visage that pops out of her, that's what librarians feel on the inside.
Actually, I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole, but there's a story behind that visage. It comes from something else other than Ghostbusters. But anyway, there's a fan theory that she's just a librarian and doesn't want to move on because she wants to be a librarian. And the reason that all the goofy stuff was going was a direct reaction to people making too much noise and and so on and so forth. So it's entirely possible that you could have a situation where someone like Ray goes back to the library trying to find something, encounters the ghost, and asks her for help. As long as he does it quietly. Excuse me, can you help me find, Tobin's Spirit Guide, 3rd edition from, 1863?
It'd be funny if then the ghost walks over and then like a secret compartment opens up behind the wall and the book pops out.
That would be great storytelling. Absolutely. And then he's like, oh, yes. Shh. Oh, sorry.
So anyway, Ghostbusters Afterlife was a welcome return to series form for many original Ghostbusters franchise fans, even though it didn't have any of the legendary set pieces from the original. While we here at the Cinema Blend thought some things worked and some things didn't work with the reboot.
There was nothing that didn't work, you goofs.
Well, it would have worked better if it wasn't for all that fan service.
Oh, right. And if it hadn't overwritten that very, very successful all-female reboot, right?
We were excited to hear that a sequel was greenlit by Sony at last year's CinemaCon. Production is now underway on Ghostbusters Afterlife 2, and Jason Reitman just teased a return of a beloved location that will get hardcore Ghostbusters devotees super excited for the sequel. The first Afterlife director, Jason Reitman, shared an image on his Instagram showing him and fellow director Gil Keenan, who's taking over directorial duties for Afterlife 2, dressed in construction gear and hard hats, posted up against a brick building that is under construction. The photo was accompanied by a simple one-word tease, Firehouse.
Yeah.
You can check out the teaser image below.
So here's the thing that fans need to remember: the the Ghostbusters, what do you call it? The headquarters for the Ghostbusters is, of course, a real firehouse in New York.
Yeah.
Hook and ladder, I forget what number, but and don't get me wrong, those guys that work there, they are huge Ghostbusters fans, and they have the original sign from that hung out in front of their. In fact, there was a fan fundraiser to restore it because it was broken in a move. And so that Ghostbusters sign has been repaired and is on display in Hook and Ladder. And for exterior shots, they still do filming there, but it's very difficult, maybe even impossible, to use the interior for filming because it's an active firehouse. So yeah. It sounds to me like what they're saying is they're rebuilding. They're making a mock-up of that firehouse to turn into the Ghostbusters headquarters because necessity.
Yeah. Still, it's cool that you can still visit the original firehouse over there.
And from everything I've heard, the folks at that firehouse are like super into, as long as they're not on a call or something like that, giving you a tour and letting you see the place and tell you the history and this is what you saw in the movie, but this is what's different and this is why, and so on and so forth, and et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
Okay, let's post the next article.
Yep. This is directly related. The upcoming Ghostbusters sequel gets a new filming date.
It's also not camera friendly. It's much easier to build an interior set and have all the angles and lighting you want. This is true. It's fascinating when you look at independent movies. And I'm sure some of them may have sets, but a lot of them they have to film on location versus Hollywood movies, and how directors have to work within those limitations versus having more free reign with camera movement.
I know I've told this story on my channel. Netter and I have been to many of the filming locations for Twin Peaks, and one of the locations was a sheriff's office, not the main sheriff's office, a different locale, a different sheriff in a different municipality. But the location was actually a forest ranger's house and office near the filming location, and we got a tour of the house, and we got to see it was a back bedroom that they were using for this sheriff's office, and I'm looking at it going, how did they film this? Where was the camera? The camera would literally have to have been in the middle of this wall. And the park ranger said, yeah, they actually had it on a raised platform outside the window, and they had to film through the window. And I'm like, I can't, because seeing the scene in my head and standing in the room, I'm like, this just boggled my mind. So yeah, I get exactly what he's saying about that. In fact, also with Twin Peaks, the famous diner, the pilot was filmed inside the real diner, and then they recreated it on a set back in California, which gave them a great deal more latitude to shoot shots from the rooms around the eating area and the kitchen and so forth. So yeah, totally get that. Sorry, little bit of geeking out on the movie making and stuff.
No, it's cool stuff. Like I said, that's what's great about DVDs and Blu-rays. You get to see behind the scenes stuff too.
And that's what's great about Geeky Geezers. You get some of this, first person, information about some things that you might not hear on another stream. So there you go.
Earlier this year, a Film and Television Industry Alliance report pegged the upcoming Ghostbusters sequel, codenamed Firehouse, to commence filming on March 6th in the United Kingdom and apparent as apparent from recent updates, the United Kingdom undoubtedly will serve as the backdrop, but today we can confirm that filming has been slightly delayed, at least compared to the original report. Speaking with those in the know, Ghostbusters News has learned that filming will not begin next week, with our insiders confirming a new start date closer to the end of the month. In addition to the update, we've also been given an outline for filming, which with Columbia Picture Ghost Corps eyeing up to a 3-month shoot, expected to wrap in late June. This would be similar to the timeline of Afterlife, which was filmed between July and October 2019. While specifics regarding the film's plot are still unknown, Firehouse will continue the story of the Spengler family, with Afterlife stars Paul Rudd, Carrie Coon, McKenna Grace, and Finn Wolfhard all confirmed to reprise their roles, with more cast confirmations expected soon. With the majority of those at Columbia Pictures Ghost Corps already in London as pre-production is well underway, there's also been a few sneak peeks ahead of filming, as in addition to leaks, co-writer Jason Reitman provided fans their first official look at the recreated interior of the Ghostbusters Firehouse set, which, much like Afterlife Spengler Farmhouse, will be comprised of multiple floors. Firehouse is currently slated to arrive in theaters on December 20th, 2023. Be sure to keep checking Ghostbusters News and subscribe to our YouTube. Okay, well, yeah.
I can already tell you that Netter and I are planning to be there. This time we will be there on opening weekend in costume with our new proton packs. Absolutely. And you know, Alan, what's the actor's name? Ruck?
Yeah.
He's probably glad to be jumping to Ghostbusters and continuing to have an acting career, because I don't think he has much of a one with Marvel Disney ever since Ant-Man.
Yep. Okay. Sorry, I was stalling out there for a second. Okay.
That's okay.
All right.
Ready for the next one?
Might as well post it. More Ernie Hudson news.
Yeah, so we talked about this a little bit last week. Well, not this, but we kind of front-loaded with. He was talking about his history with the franchise and how he felt like his character was kind of minimalized. And I think he came short of saying it had any a racial component, but he took it kind of personally that he felt that his character and his contribution was every bit as much as the other three Ghostbusters.
Sure.
And if you look at some of the marketing and the promotional material and stuff, sometimes he's left off posters and stuff like that. And the fans have talked. This is in no way controversial. This is stuff that the fans have talked about for years. And again, mostly not in reference to anything racial, although I suppose that could be a component, but nobody is making that a strong suggestion. It's just, hey, he's not an afterthought, And so, yeah, maybe just go ahead and jump into the article and we'll talk about it.
Sure. With the next Ghostbusters expected to begin filming this month within the United Kingdom, there's seemingly now a question on whether or not Ernie Hudson will reprise the role of Winston Zeddemore in the film, with the actor further alluding to issues with the studio. For those that missed it last month, Ernie, in an interview with the Howard Stern show, openly called the first film the most difficult movie he'd ever done, citing that the studio wasn't inclusive, being felt that he'd been pushed aside and that his omission on various marketing material, in particular film posters, felt deliberate. In a bit of an update, Ernie was a guest on Thursday's episode of The Jennifer Hudson Show, saying that at this time he doesn't know if he'll return for Afterlife's theatrical follow-up. They're doing another one, and I'm not sure if I'll be in it, but for the fans to know, it won't be because of me. Shifting our focus back to the Howard Stern Show interview, it does provide slightly more insight on what could be causing the apparent rift, with Ernie wanting his inclusion to be more than just an add-on role. It took a long time for the studio, and even now we're negotiating a new movie that's gearing up to start shooting in March. And I'm like, guys, there's a place that I'm not an add-on. So if I'm going to do it, it has to make sense. While on the topic of the upcoming film codenamed Firehouse, earlier this week, co-writer Jason Reitman shared our first behind-the-scenes look with an image that both he and director Gil Keenan standing in front of the recreated interior of the Ghostbusters. Okay. I don't know what to make of this. It's sounding like they maybe would have them do a where they. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Where they like saying, "Oh, you can do a cameo like for 5 seconds or something," and maybe more.
And see, here's one of those circumstances where I don't have any greater insight. I don't have any inside sources or anything. All I have is what I know about the industry, what I know about him personally, which is very little. I've met him personally. He's a great guy. And I've heard him talk about his role and some of the stuff he's gone through, and this article. And so I can give my gut instinct, what I believe is going on, but take that with a grain of salt. It means nothing. It's just my speculation based on what I just said. It does sound to me like someone must have had a conversation with him about him appearing in the next movie. Now, keep in mind, especially for those of you that didn't see Ghostbusters Afterlife, he did play a prominent role in that film, even as a returning something more than a cameo. The main surviving Ghostbusters actors that came back were not just cameos. They were integral to the story. And of all of them, I think the two characters that were probably the most important to the plot were Janine and Winston.
Yes.
And I would even argue, no, maybe I can't say that. I was going to say Winston maybe more so, but just two very different roles. Janine was very important to the continuity of Venkman's relationship to his family. So it was kind of a very human aspect. And Winston was very important to the preservation of the business. He is now become something of an entrepreneur. He has maintained that firehouse. He has, kept the technology up and so forth. And the franchising of Ghostbusters, he has a financial interest in as a character. So he is important. I don't see how a logical sequel can continue without his direct involvement. But it is possible that maybe someone said, yeah, we're just going to want you for one scene where you know...
Like doing a phone call on the characters. And
exactly. And he's like, no. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do a role. If not, I don't want to have anything to do with it, or something like that.
Point, either use them or don't use them. That's the whole thing.
And let's face it, there's also going to be some degree of Hollywood, playing with numbers and
Possibly. That could be a reason.
Trying to get a salary out of this and stuff, and well he should. You deserve that. So, but he is a huge fan favorite. I'm telling you this as a fan who has been loosely affiliated with multiple Ghostbusters fan groups. He is truly seen by the vast majority of Ghostbusters fans as the fan insert into the Ghostbusters world. And if he's not part of it, I think there will be not a big dust up and people like boycotting or anything, but a lot of disappointment, I think.
It'll be a disappointment. I don't think it'll be like, oh, we're not going to see the movie. And I'll be disappointed if he's not in either. I would like to see more Winston, especially in this sequel franchise, considering he didn't maybe get as much screen time in the original movies as well. Skipper Kenner says his character was the least written developed of the group, but the others were heavyweights. Wasn't racial so much, just writing for us. And to be fair, he doesn't go and say that specifically. You don't know what the reasons were behind it. It could be
I specifically, and I said that there's never been any indication from him, and I haven't heard a great deal of suggestion from fans that there was anything racial about it.
I don't think he wants to go there, especially if he's wrong about it. From his point of view, I don't know. Here's what I'm going to say. I think the other actors were more established. That could be a reason why. I will say this. In retrospect, though, Winston is every bit every as much the Ghostbuster as the other three, and we'd like to see him on all the memorabilia and posters and whatnot. I think that does need to be a correction. I think giving him a more prominent place in these sequels would be a way to kind of correct that.
Absolutely.
I'd like to see Ray show up again. I don't know so much about Bankman. I don't think he necessarily is.
Now, if anyone could be a cameo appearance, it would definitely be Ray, because I could totally see them, just needing to get a book from him or just seek his advice on something. But at the same time, it's not really truly necessary. I do feel, however, that the way they wrote Winston for the last movie, he is still very integrally important in this story. Now, what I wanted to say, though, is from my experience, my limited experience with Ernie Hudson, he is a class act kind of a guy.
Yeah.
And he strikes me as the type who would not, I hate to put it this way, but pull the race card, if it wasn't really, truly a racial issue, which I don't think it is. Or maybe he doesn't even feel it is. So he doesn't want to go there, and I don't blame him. It's less about why it's happening so much as he feels it is happening and it needs to be addressed. And as a fan, I'm totally behind him on that. I dig that. And I do hope to see him. I hope that all of this is just posturing to make sure that he gets a good salary, and then we get to see him in the movie. We'll see.
Yeah, I want to see Winston return, and like I said, Hudson could do more, but his character does deserve better, But I think it doesn't easily, if it doesn't easily write into the story, then you take away from the story and that character by shoehorning them in. I agree. And I don't think he wants them to shoehorn him in. I'm just saying.
And Skipper
either
Kenner's
I am integral or I'm not. That's what he's basically saying.
And Skipper Kenner's right here too. He didn't have a lot of space and time in the film, but he was integral to the backstory. Yes, his character is incredibly important, and especially with that last scene, that really sets it up as I don't see how they move forward without him as a touchstone.
No, because he's going to be the one funding the whole thing, the whole operation. I don't know what they're planning for the sequel. It's very under wraps. We just suspect that it's going to take place in New York at the old location. That's the only thing, and it's going to have some of the past. It's going to have the new people that were in the last movie. That's what I'm assuming. So we'll have to wait and see. I hope it works out and we get a great Ghostbusters sequel. I am going to say this though. I don't know if this is money thing. I remember the last Scream movie that came out with Nev Campbell, Sydney Bristow showing up again. I know she's not going to be in the next one. It was a money thing. She felt she deserved more money to be in the sequel. I'll say this, narratively speaking, I think it's okay that she's not in the sequel because I think the last movie it was kind of a passing of the torch, I thought. And I don't think we need to I don't know if Sydney, especially when she has young children, should be dragged into Scream movies all the time, So if they never bring her back, I still think it ended well for her character in that series.
And you hit on something else there. That's the other side of this whole Ernie Hudson thing. The other thing he seems to be saying is, it almost sounds like, and if they go on without me and I'm not needed, that's fine. I don't want to, be a, just a cameo. If it makes sense, put me in it. If not, let's just forget about it. And I can understand that. And that's a pretty classy way to look at it too.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Moving on to maybe something that doesn't have class.
No, but this is definitely moving on. So Star Trek Discovery to end with season 5. Paramount Plus pushes premiere to 2024. Now, does that mean they're pushing it out or they're pushing it in? I'm not sure if it's being delayed or if they're rushing it. I have no idea. I'm not paying attention.
You're sounding like the former TV executive guy. Who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Star Trek Discovery will end with the upcoming season 5 at Paramount Plus. Variety has learned. In addition, the 5th and final season will now debut in early 2024 as opposed to this year as originally thought. Discovery has been the flagship modern Star Trek series since it launched in 2017, at a time when Paramount Plus was still known as CBS All Access. The series kicked off the rebooted Star Trek TV universe and led to the successful spin-off Star Trek Strange New Worlds, which is currently prepping its second season. The show also chalked up a number of firsts for the franchise, including having a black female protagonist in Michael Burnham, It also prominently featured LGBTQIA plus characters in a way not previously seen in a Star Trek show. The ending of Discovery comes as Paramount looks to continue building on the success of Star Trek franchise while also coming to grips with the financial realities of the streaming era, as most major media companies have announced plans to slash content spending in the years going forward. Along with Discovery and Strange New Worlds, Paramount Plus is currently airing the third and final season of Star Trek Picard, which features a reunion of the Next Generation cast alongside series lead Patrick Stewart. There have been rumors that spin-offs built around the characters in Picard could also be in the works. Paramount Plus also has adult animated series Star Trek Lower Decks, which is prepping its fourth season, as well as the Nickelodeon series Star Trek Prodigy, which is prepping its second season. Paramount has also been developing a Starfleet Academy series for some time, along with a series about the mysterious Section 31, starring Michelle Yeoh.
They're still talking about that? Okay. Okay.
A character she originated on Discovery. What is Kurtzman's obsession with doing a Section 31 show?
His obsession is his investment. He's still trying to make money off of someone else's IP.
I'm starting to become convinced Section 31 was a mistake.
It absolutely was. Nobody wants it.
I mean, I thought in Deep Space Nine it was interesting that there was a Black Ops group inside the Federation that did things that weren't the most kosher things to do. If you catch my drift. I thought that was interesting, especially when they were fighting a very nasty war with the Dominion, that you would have members of the Federation that weren't acting in the most upstanding way. But at the same time, I think now people become obsessed with Section 31, and now they want to make series, and that's not really Section 31 are supposed to be sort of bad guys. Isn't that the impression I got?
Yeah.
From Deep Space Nine, and now they're making them into anti-heroes because they don't like I don't think this is a good idea.
Yeah.
I don't think it's ever going to happen either because they've been teasing this thing. I don't think these other series are going to happen. I think these Star Trek series are going to get shelved. I think the animated series will finish out their runs because I think you get a certain amount ordered for those and then they finish those off. I don't know what's going on with Strange New Worlds. How much more of this? I think they're canning everything. I think these series are very expensive. Don't you think?
Absolutely. I think that we're seeing that. In fact, they're talking about this season 5 of Star Trek Discovery, but they filmed it together with season 4. So what they really did was they're stretching it as long as they can to keep the IP alive as long as they can, and it's a death knell. You got Strange New Worlds. And there's been no announcement about a season 3 for that, but everything I'm hearing is that Anson Mount is on to something else. So,
well, you know what they could do if that's the case? They could theoretically, of course, they say is the series set 7 years before Kirk takes over the Enterprise, so that's not going to work either. Because I was thinking they could always just bring in that other actor playing Captain Kirk. Captain Pike could get all messed up and stuck in the horrible apparatus where he could only. Like flash green or red in the colors and just ship them off the Enterprise and they can have Captain Kirk on there.
Yep.
They could always do that if they didn't want to use Anson Mount anymore. They could just have it be Captain Kirk be the captain.
And here's the other thing about that Section 31. That is a series that when you see something like this that is stuck in production hell, and we'll get to that with the next article, but there's no reason to believe it's going to happen. And it's centered on Michelle Yeoh, who, for crying out loud, she's just been nominated for an Oscar, and she in my opinion, she has been way too high of a caliber actress for that Star Trek Discovery. I had no idea why she was on it. She is not going to be waiting around. She's priced way out of the market. She was like one of the leading ladies of Hong Kong cinema for decades. She was in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. People forget about that. She is. I don't know if it's because she's Chinese, so they felt they could throw her on Star Trek, and maybe that was a big draw. Can I just say, 60 years old, still absolutely gorgeous. Come on.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there.
She
she's
has
one of the highlights of Discovery. I like
she
her as a
can
villain.
literally write her own ticket in Hollywood. She is not at this point. I think she doesn't care about Star Trek. She has no plans. I mean, I don't know anything about her, but if I was in her position, I'd be like, yeah, okay, whatever. You know, keeping my options open. Not going to say anything, but yeah, she's not.
Oh, you mean 20th Century Fox, not Sony. Sony had Spider-Man. 20th Century Fox had Fantastic Four. Keep putting
right.
So people don't forget how little they cared for. Oh man, yeah, 20th Century Fox. Yeah, you said that. I don't know. I'm exhausted by current Trek.
So the current whispers in the commentary sphere is that it really looks like Secret Hideout is on its way out of the Star Trek game. They're doing everything they can to hold on to it, but they're being marched out the door.
Yeah, they have to now shelve Star Trek for a while. I'm sorry.
I agree with you.
They have to shelve it. I don't know how they reboot it. I think basically anything Abrams, Secret Hideout, any of that has to be tossed. That whole can has to be tossed.
Well,
if I see another Star Trek series, Romulus is alive and well, and they make androids. Okay, that's what I would do, just to flip the bird to what we saw in Picard.
Yeah, maybe.
And blowing up Romulus in the Abrams movie too. That was stupid too. That was just dumb. No.
You make an excellent point, because am I correct that the canon for Star Trek Picard is it's taking place in that future where Romulus has been destroyed?
Well, here's what happens. Okay, if you watch the Abrams Star Trek movie,
I did.
Yeah. Okay, Spock was trying to figure out a way to prevent Romulus from getting destroyed, but it didn't work. So then that one guy goes back in time to kill, make Spock's life miserable. But Romulus still blows up. Now, I'm assuming that the Picard series is still taking place in the normal timeline before Spock time traveled. So Romulus blew up. Okay.
Yeah.
And then Spock disappeared in the black hole or whatever it was when he was trying to save Romulus, which was just. I don't want to think about this anymore. I don't want to think about what Abrams has done to Star Trek.
I'm just, time travel.
Because I know what you're saying. Is that the Kelvin timeline? Does Romulus still blow up in the Kelvin timeline? Is this an alternate universe like that one where all the different enterprises showed up?
No, I think that's exactly that. Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying the Kelvin timeline is a complete branch, but this Picard universe is taking place in what would have been the universe before
Kelvin timeline.
It still has the Romulus and Remus being destroyed, but any time travel with Chris Pine and all that's happening in a separate universe.
Stupid. Sorry.
I have heard from people that have seen the entire season 3 of Picard that it's supposed to somehow fix some things. To say I'm dubious is the most ridiculous of understatements. I will believe it when I see it, and I will only see it if I hear from others. Oh yeah, you should see this 3rd season. They fixed everything and put everything back on track. I don't buy it. I don't believe it.
They're going to put everything back on track, and now it's over. Unless they're going to do another stupid spin-off series. They've already determined, too, that at some point, I guess after TNG or whatever, all the dilithium is supposed to get destroyed, right? So they can't do warp travel anymore.
Well, here's the problem.
Michael Burnham shows up. This is just... They've completely mucked with everything.
I have to address this from a business standpoint. Let's put aside what we want as fans, okay? The difference between JJ Trek the movies, which again we'll get to in just a moment, the bad robot Secret Hideout stuff for Discovery and Strange New Worlds and Picard, okay, and CBS, those are all separate entities that own separate portions of the proverbial baby, right? The splitting the baby thing. So anything that has the Christopher Pine, those uniforms, that style of Enterprise, that style of phaser, the money for that merchandising, which isn't happening, of course, goes to J.J. Abrams. All the action figures of the Discovery crew and any ship models and stuff like that from Discovery or from Strange New Worlds, that specific style of Enterprise that isn't the Enterprise that we remember from the original series, all of that belongs to Secret Hideout and all the people involved with that. All the classic stuff, all the story ideas, all that belongs to CBS and Paramount. And there's still maybe some division within that. CBS and Paramount having been two separate divisions and the Viacom thing. It all gets really, really complex. So going forward, if J.J. Abrams isn't involved, if Secret Hideout isn't involved, and they want to continue Star Trek, and they decide to reference the fact that Romulus has been destroyed, that's a story element created by J.J. Abrams and Bad Robot. He gets royalties for that. So they need to really think. If they're going to continue forward, maybe they should retcon that out.
Yeah, that's a point. To my knowledge, Romulus has been destroyed in Picard, but it was under different circumstances. Not sure. I didn't watch after the third episode. Yeah. I'm sure there wasn't consistency in how, and even in their own canon that they're creating.
What they've said in the shows and in the movies conflicts a little bit with what they've said in the books. But as is usual, the books are considered non-canon, and yet they're better thought out than what is usually put on screen. So 6 of one, half dozen of the other there.
Only the Guardian of Forever knows how this will turn out. It's funny because I think they did a version of the Guardian of Forever on Discovery. I stopped watching by that point, but they couldn't use the one from the episode because heaven
forbid they should have to pay royalties, right?
Yes, so it was something else, but they think that's what they were going for with their version. Which
was it DC Fontana or something like that, I don't know.
Let's move on.
Yeah. So getting to the film element of it, Chris Pine says Star Trek film franchise feels like it's cursed and calls it frustrating being kept out of the loop on cursed. Star Trek 4.
It is cursed. It's been cursed for a while now.
Yeah. Well, and look, I mean, I don't know where he's at in his career and how important this is to him, but if nothing else, this is his reaction to constantly being asked about it. And he has to keep saying, I don't know. Look, even if he knows, he may not be in a position to say, oh yeah, it's in a quagmire and it's probably never going to happen. He can't say that. Professionally speaking, he can't say that. So
it's almost like poor Idris Elba when people ask, are you going to play Bond? And he's like, I'm tired of dealing with this at this point. Okay,
Yeah.
I felt like he was kind of used like as a real punching bag by both sides of the issue.
And in a way, you almost get to the point where you decide, look, I'm taking a stand on this. No, I'm not. Sorry, manager, but I have decided if you come up with a deal for me to play it, I'm still not doing it, so don't try anymore.
I think he's basically said it's not happening. And I don't think he ever confirmed that it was happening either. But yeah, I think he said he's out. I mean, at this point, he'd be too old to play him anyway. But anyway,
that doesn't stop them anymore, for crying out loud. And honestly, I mean, even historically, look at Sean Connery. Never say never again.
No, he's too old. I'll be blunt. Even by the time you get to Diamonds Are Forever, he's getting long in the tooth. Have you seen Diamonds Are Forever?
I agree. I'm just saying there is a precedent for it.
If you want to watch a great YouTube channel about the Bond movies, I think it's called. His name is Dutch Bond fan. He's I guess he's from Holland. Is that right? That's where the Dutch are from, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he's from Holland. I'm just making sure I'm not an ignorant American. But anyway, he...
well, you are an ignorant American, but that's not a reference to it. Yeah.
He's Dutch, and he talks about the Bond movies. And it was funny, because he made a point that in Diamonds Are Forever, what happened? It was only like 3 years or something since You Only Live Twice came out, and he looks like he's aged like 15 years. It's like, shenanigans.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on before I lose my voice. Okay, what's going on with Paramount's Star Trek film franchise?
They don't know.
Don't ask Chris Pine, and even though he's one of the headlining stars, Pine has played Captain Kirk in 3 Star Trek movies, and he is painfully out of the loop when it comes to the long-delayed and long-overhauled 4th movie. Directors such as Quentin Tarantino and Noah Hawley developed Star Trek 4 scripts that never got off the ground. WandaVision director Matt Shakman was the most recent filmmaker attached to Star Trek 4, but he left the project to shoot Marvel's Fantastic Four reboot instead. Paramount announced last September it was removing Star Trek 4 from its release calendar. As part of Chris Pine's new Esquire cover story, franchise producer J.J. Abrams said the Star Trek 4 script is in a good place. I will say it's the first time since the original reboot that we have a story that feels as compelling as the first one, he added. But even still, Pine is out of the loop. I want to ask, why weren't the 2 sequels as compelling as the first one, JJ?
Yeah, exactly.
In fact, maybe the thing that you should have been shooting for is making them better than the first one. That should maybe be what you're trying to do with your sequels. But
good point.
The first reboot was okay. I know some people didn't like it, which is fine considering where the series went. I don't blame them at this point. I forgave it. I forgave its eccentricities because I thought it did some things right. And then we got Star Trek Into Darkness, which was just terrible, absolutely awful. Did you see Star Trek Into Darkness?
I did not. I was pretty much done when they blew up Vulcan. I said this is
it was stupid.
And when I saw the new Enterprise, I said this is not Star Trek. This is not the Enterprise. I'm out.
Yeah, you were right.
And I said enjoy your new Trek, all of you new Trekkies. But apparently they didn't, because I don't see anyone wearing those costumes going to conventions.
I remember when I thought that Star Trek Discovery would be a return form because they're bringing it back to TV, and maybe they're not going to. No. But
it was even worse.
The funny thing about all these Star Trek properties, whether it be Picard, Discovery, or even this movie franchise, they're all bad, but they're bad in different ways. It's not like a consistent thing like with some of the issues we run into with Star Wars. Where it's usually a consistent thing that's brought in the franchise. It's like different things in each of these series.
And it's like I was saying, we have all these different universes now within Star Trek, and people are trying to squint and hold their heads sideways and try to make Discovery and Strange New Worlds and the JJ verse and the original Trek and Picard all fit in the same timeline, and you just can't. It doesn't work. It doesn't work for original Trek. It doesn't work within any of the individual, canons of the individual shows. There is no, there's nobody at the helm who is controlling all of this and making sure things match up. There's no like Mike Okuda and Rick Sternbach and
there's Kurtzman who just doesn't know what he's doing.
No, and he doesn't care. And this is what you get. You get this spaghettification.
You know what I had heard? I heard that, I think it was Midnight's Edge were talking about it, and they were not... They said that Kurtzman got into big trouble over that Clarice series doing poorly.
Oh, yeah. That's a whole other nightmare that we could talk about.
I think they were angry because they didn't realize it was going to be this follow-up to Silence of the Lambs with no Hannibal Lecter. I think they were hoping it could eventually cross over to the Hannibal show that was.
And this is another
the actor that played Hannibal on that show to be.
This is another example of splitting the baby. And you have one show with Clarice, one show with Hannibal, and they have nothing to do with each other. And it's like neither one is complete. Neither one, and nobody likes either one because the two go together. And I'm seeing this for all
Hannibal could survive a while because remember there was a detective before Clarice Starling shows up.
True.
Yes, but eventually you have to get.
But this is a big problem not enough people are talking about. We're so focused on the woke, right? And the diversity and all this and putting all of that above storytelling, which is a problem, but it's more of a symptom. It seems like the real problem is something that's been happening ever since DC Comics and Superman. Okay? and the battle with the Siegel and Schuster over Superman and Superboy and dividing up the baby. And this is why you're seeing all these reboots within comics with Superman in a different outfit and make his son a different kind of Superman. And, if we make him gay, that's a different character. And we can, because they don't want to pay the people that created the stories that people love. They want to be able to control the current story and not have to pay out royalties to someone else. Well, that's great. You're going to have 100% of nothing rather than a share of a fortune.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's basically what it is. You split the baby in two. The baby's dead.
Yeah. It was what's the old story of the killing the golden goose?
Oh, yeah.
I was going to say killing the golden goose. The farmer has a goose that lays golden eggs, and he gets a golden egg every single day. And he decides that's not enough, and he gets greedy, so he cuts the goose open to get all the eggs, and he finds nothing inside, because that's not how it works. And now he gets nothing ever again.
So it goes on to say Pine and his co-stars Zachary Quinto, Zoe Saldana, and more reportedly have no idea Paramount was even moving forward with Star Trek 4 when Abrams announced as much in February 2022. It's all par for the course with Star Trek, Pine told Esquire. I would say it's frustrating, Pine said, about always being kept out of the loop in the franchise. It doesn't really foster the greatest sense of partnership, but it's how it's always been. I love the character, I love the people, I love the franchise, but to try and change the system in which things are created, I just can't do it. I don't have the energy. The Star Trek franchise has been a question mark ever since the third installment, 2016 Star Trek Beyond, disappointed at the box office with $344 million worldwide. Pine has often lamented over Star Trek movies being forced to gross Marvel-level numbers at the box office. He continued to beat the drum on this matter in his Esquire interview. I'm not sure Star Trek was ever built to do that kind of business. He's absolutely
got a point
right.
There. Yeah, he's got a point there.
Pine said, I always thought, why aren't we just appealing to this really rabid fan group and making the movie for a good price?
What a radical idea! Oh my gosh!
Wow.
Nobody's ever said that before.
Making the movie for going American instead of trying to compete with the Marvels of the world. That's what Paramount used to do at Star Trek. These were not hugely budgeted movies. The most expensive of those old movies was the motion picture. It went over budget, and they got into trouble. They said, you're paring it back.
Yeah.
They pared back, but it didn't. They didn't look cheap, I'll say that, but they didn't have like Star Wars level money.
Well, and a lot of people in the industry have said, it's when you put those limitations that you get some of the best stuff.
Sure.
You look at Star Wars, you look at 2001, you look at so many other things. Yes, they may have been big budgets for the time, but they were not as big as, relatively speaking, as what they're doing today. And what they're doing today looks like shit. Look at She-Hulk. Look at a lot of the most recent Marvel films where the CG sucks.
They were saying there were real problems with an Ant-Man sequel, but
not to mention that they're putting they're doing like 12 different endings. They're making they're literally spending the budget to make 3 or 4 movies, but they're only putting out one.
Yeah.
And they're not making the money back to break even.
And let's see, after the last one came out and didn't do the $1 billion that everyone wanted to do, and then Anton passed away, I don't know, it just seemed. Yeah, here's the thing, and he says, and the only thing Pine added was that the Star Trek franchise feels cursed, feels like it's cursed.
And guys, I gotta say this about that too. We gotta get over this idea that if an actor dies, they can't be recast. That's bullshit. That's not how acting works.
No, you're correct. Plus, let's be honest, Anton Yelkin was a recast from the original actor that played Chekhov. They're all recasts.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And yes, he was excellent. So you find another excellent actor. Look, there are a lot of unknown actors out there that can play the role as well. That haven't been given a chance.
You know what I would have done, though? Do you remember on Star Trek, the animated series, it didn't have Chekhov at the helmet? At the helmet had
Eric's.
Had that weird long hair. They had him in there instead. And it still keeps in continuity. Chekov could still be out there on another ship somewhere.
That would have actually been a brilliant way to do it, was to bring in Eric's. But they wouldn't do that. You know why? Because they'd have to pay royalties to Filmation or whomever.
This needs to stop. That's
the way these people think, unfortunately.
Okay, well, speaking of Chris Pine,
yeah, no, let's continue with Chris Pine. The Dungeons and Dragons movie intentionally emasculates its leading men. Oh, well, that's a surprise.
What are you doing?
Just like every other movie of this generation.
Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves writing team John Francis Daly and Jonathan Goldstein revealed that they intentionally emasculated the film's leading men, though not for wokeness. While speaking with Variety, Daly and Goldstein discussed how Michelle Rodriguez Holga, the Barbarian, and Sophia Lillis Doric, the Druid, tend to engage in the front lines of battle compared to their male party members. That was not an attempt at wokeness on our part, Goldstein said. Daly elaborated, saying, "Swear to God, it wasn't. We like that Holga is the bruiser that does the dirty work for Edgin, and he doesn't like to get his hands dirty. We also love emasculating leading men." After reiterating that the reasons did not pertain to woke thinking, the pair explained that they wrote the men that way because they find it funny and fresh, pointing to Rachel McAdams and Jason Bateman's character Date Night, which Daly and Goldstein also wrote. They also aimed to do something similar to Tom Holland's Peter Parker and Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark in Spider-Man Homecoming. We like our male heroes to be challenged and not simply heroic, Goldstein explained. It's something that the pair found surprisingly difficult to achieve with leading actors in their films. While they did not name names, they noted that they'd had experiences with a couple of male actors in the past who refused to look weak or vulnerable in a film. Maybe because they didn't want to be humiliated in front of millions of people. I'm sorry, wait a minute. However, they had the opposite problem with Chris Pine, who plays Edgin the Bard in the movie. Instead, Pine reportedly enjoyed making himself look as bad as possible, almost to a fault. To the point the team had to remind him to look heroic in some scenes.
Okay. So there's a lot of levels here. First, he refers to Date Night. Date Night is a comedy.
Yes.
Okay? He refers to Spider-Man. Not a comedy, but let's face it, Spider-Man is meant to be a humorous character.
Yes.
A lot of hard luck in that character. I don't know if you'd consider it emasculating or not, but he's a kid who gets himself into some circumstances, and that's part of who Spider-Man is. This is Dungeons and Dragons. This is not a comedy. This should be a serious fantasy adventure film. They are clearly making all the same mistakes that the original Dungeons and Dragons movie did. They're doing it all over again and expecting different results.
I never saw that, but that reminds me of, in the wake of the Adam West Batman series, how you had all of these superhero shows coming on, like Captain Nice, I think, was one, and and all these shows that really just made fun of superheroes, like they were something to be poked fun at. And that sort of seems how these writers are tackling D&D.
Because they have no respect for what the IP is that they're working on. They're turning them into parodies of what they should be doing. Now, here is one other element to put a little bit of nuance in this discussion. I did not realize that Christopher Pine was playing a bard character.
Yes.
Given that, and that the female character is playing a barbarian and a druid, okay, yeah. In Dungeons and Dragons, you do tend to pick on the bard. The bard is the weak link in the party, usually. The magic user is, depending on what level the characters are, oftentimes the weakest character is the wizard, but for in very short order, he starts casting fireballs and whatnot. And if you have a cleric in the party doing healing, yeah, it's the bard who's usually the weak link in the party. But this movie's going to tank. It's going to tank as badly as all the other Dungeons and Dragons movies, and this is not helped by Wizards of the Coast and all their stupidity in the past year or so.
How much does this movie cost?
I don't know, but I can tell you it's going to make negative money.
I
Whatever it costs, they're not going to earn it back.
Who is running things over at Paramount? You have Skydance, which they're partnered with, which knows what they're doing, and then they should just put Skydance in charge of the whole studio.
Well, I think it's
Maverick.
I think that no matter who the studio is and who's in charge of the studio, they have to deal with Wizards of the Coast on this. And that's a problem.
But is Wizards of the Coast one insisting on this angle? I don't know.
They have a great deal of stake in this IP.
Okay.
Especially now. If they're not very much at the helm, I don't know. It's FUBAR, however you look at it, really.
Game Night was actually good, yes, but it was designed as a comedy.
Yes.
Whereas this, I think D&D, I'm thinking it's fantasy epic. Is that what it's supposed to be, or adventure movie? At least?
I've got a stream coming up in the fairly near future with Pops on Pop Culture, where I'm going to be talking about a fan made game, like D&D like game related story called the Gamers. Which is also a comedy. Very, very good. But it's a comedy. You know, I mean, Dungeons & Dragons should not be the comedy. It should be the example of this is the story, this is the game. Don't you want to go out and play this game? You know? I mean, this isn't, you know, a movie about exploding kittens or one of those kind of goofy games.
Well, you never know. I'm kidding. I'm just saying.
No, I mean, Exploding Kittens is a real game.
I know that's an actual game. I'm just saying they could do a crossover in the D&D.
Oh, yeah.
The guys writing it are big fans of Exploding Kittens, and they want to fit in there.
Yeah,
let's go to Chernobyl. Let's go to the.
Let's go to Chernobyl. Let's blow this thing up.
No, let's go to the Day of the Triffids. I'll explain when I read the title.
Yeah.
Let's move on. It's getting late.
Chernobyl director Johan Rennick, Angry Films tackling Day of the Triffids adaptation. And some people aren't too happy about it.
Have you seen Chernobyl, the HBO miniseries?
No. It is on my list, though. I've heard good things.
It is terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
I swear, I'm watching this show, and it's like watching a horror movie. Those first few episodes. It's not like you get to find out what happened later on, like they do the things that went wrong and how it led to that. But it starts out with the explosion happening right there, the accident happening right there and then you get to see the after effects right away.
Yeah.
And it's like them handling it. And what I actually loved about Chernobyl, and I wish that Ridley Scott had taken a page out of Chernobyl's book when making his House of Gucci movie. It has an international cast in it, and they're just speaking in whatever their accents are. They don't have anyone trying to affect a bad Russian accent.
Nah.
They're just all speaking English, and the same thing should happen in House of Gucci, because in Italy, they don't speak English with bad Italian accents. They speak Italian. And if you don't want to do it in Italian, then just do just have them talk like, I guess, Americans if you're casting American actors, or get up Jeremy Irons keep his British accent. Don't do it where it's everyone has these horrendous Italian accents in it. I'm not kidding you. Like Jared Leto's character was like the Mamma Mia, Superman.
Right.
Brothers.
Yeah.
Adam Driver was sporting an Italian accent. It's just bad. It's. Anyway, I'm off track. Let's read the article.
Okay.
Stop getting me off track.
Sorry.
Okay.
I'm terrible.
Move over The Last of Us. There's a new biological threat sprouting to annihilate mankind. Johan Rennick, if I'm saying his name right, who directed the acclaimed HBO series Chernobyl, is attached to helm The Day of the Triffids, adaptation of the classic British science fiction novel by John Wyndham. I know it was based on a novel. Okay, hold on. Amazon Studios picked up the rights to the novel with Don Murphy and Susan Montford on board to executive produce via their Angry Films banner. Gillian and Dennis Day Friend, Prager Entertainment, the novel media rights holder, will executive produce, as will Renck and his partner Michelle Paredes at Shingle Sinestra. The 1951 novel is a post-apocalyptic tale of an alien invasion of Earth by a cloud of seeds which sprout sentient plants. A large portion of the population is blinded by a meteor shower in preparation for the invasion, and small groups of sighted survivors of different social strata in England vied to survive. The influential novel served as an inspiration on movies such as 28 Days Later. Sources say that Amazon intends to adapt the books as a string of miniseries detailing the invasion from multiple point of view in multiple cities. A writer search is in progress. Murphy and Montfort had been working with Prager for years to bring the book back to the screen. At one point, Luther created Neil Cross and Sam Raimi were writing and directing, respectively, a feature incarnation for Good Universal Lionsgate. Triffids was famously adapted as a movie in 1962, 3 times as a radio play, and twice as a TV miniseries for the BBC, most recently in 2009. Angry Film and Prager worked together most recently on the Vampire Academy series that streamed on Peacock last year. Rank is a commercial and video director who has worked on series such as Breaking Bad and The Walking Dead. He won 2 Emmys for his work on Chernobyl, HBO's acclaimed and dramatic look at the 1986 nuclear meltdown in Ukraine, including one for outstanding directing in a limited series. Chernobyl was created by Craig Mazin, who co-created Fungi Killing Humanity series Last of Us, which adapts well, that has nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
Okay, Day of the Triffids series. What do you think?
You know, I vaguely remember the 63 film. I never saw the British miniseries. But yeah, I mean, if all the things I've heard about Chernobyl, are legit, this guy, apparently knows how to make films. So
we'll see.
I'd certainly be willing to give it a shot.
We'll see. I've noticed too. I think this is a trend. Like they're redoing the Giant Ant movie. I'm wondering if, because of the time period we're living in, that's very censorious, much like the 1950s. Now they're going back to the stuff that was okay in the 1950s to make, like the giant bug movies and stuff like that.
Well, look,
in this case, giant plants. I mean, this is.
I loved a lot of original, classic, black and white, scary movies.
And I'm not saying those are bad movies, but I'm saying there's
no.
they were made because they were not controversial, at least at the time. Yeah.
But at the same time, I also see that there's a lot you could do. I've always said if you're going to remake something, there's got to be a reason. There's got to be something that you could bring to it. Something, And honestly, one great example, it's not perfect, but it's an example, is The Fly. You compare the original Fly to the... what's his name? The body horror guy that did the
Cronenberg.
To the Cronenberg one, right? You got the special effects and I mean that takes a scary movie and it amps it up, I felt like something was missing when it goes from being a man and his wife and they have a kid to now it's a one-night stand kind of thing. I think you lose some of the story element, but proof of concept, this is how you up a story. Another one is The Mummy. You look at the original Mummy, you look at the Brandon Fraser Mummy, okay, I see the value of remaking something.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, in a way, yeah, that's true. It is like War of the Worlds, sure.
You can do remakes, and it can be good, and there's no reason this has to be bad. Plus, this is an adaptation, too, because it was a book originally, so you could argue it's just adapting. Troy would happily do a Chernobyl watch with you and Ned. Okay, so...
That sounds like a plan. We'll have to do that. Hopefully there's pizza involved. Chicago style.
I want to eat pizza while watching this thing. It's just no. You're gonna watch it with your mouth open. Like the first 3 episodes, it's just like, oh no, they're gonna try. They don't know what they're doing. Oh no, they're gonna. It's like.
As far as historically accurate. Because this will be another one of those movies where I go into it knowing the history already.
Let me know what you think.
I
don't know because I know that apparently Russia was not too happy with this miniseries and wanted to do their own.
So it probably was historically accurate.
It does not make the Soviet government look good during that whole mess.
Well, it shouldn't because it was. I mean, I have and I won't name him because I think he's still got some clearance issues. But I got a buddy who was in the nuclear training program here, in the Navy, and he now works for a private nuclear facility, and so he knows all about what happened at Chernobyl. He knows about things that happened here that he can't talk about, but he has talked about. No. I mean, not horrible, but it's just, it's confidential, not supposed to talk about it. But he has shared with me the difference between the security and the engineering of the Soviet Union, former Soviet Union, and the United States. For example, and there's plenty of videos out there about what happened at Chernobyl. And I'm sure maybe if they get into some of the technical details in this movie, you might even know some of them. There was certain redundancies that were completely ignored. So many things had to go wrong for Chernobyl to happen. And they did because of lapses in so many areas.
Yes, they go into that in this.
Whereas here in the United States, there was a plant that, and this was again in the Navy, there was a facility where some valve wasn't locked down for an inspection, and it was completely non-consequential in a part of the plant that was not in active use, so it didn't matter at all. But because of regulations, an officer lost his commission because of it. That's the difference.
Well, I can't blame them for wanting to be as thorough as possible, though, at the same time. I mean, something goes wrong with these plants, and I want to make a point that I actually do think I do think nuclear energy is a good option.
I could even get into some of the things with what was that near meltdown we had in on the Eastern Seaboard? 5 Mile Island or whatever it's called. Yeah. That's another one where there was a big mistake that happened, but because there were redundancies that weren't overlooked, we didn't have the Chernobyl sort of a situation, and everyone wants to keep pointing to that one like, it was such a big thing. What happened? Who died? It was not the big, horrendous thing that Chernobyl was.
Yeah, Skipper.
Or was it? Okay.
They did blend a lot of the scientists into like a couple characters in the show to represent them, like
I understand. For storytelling reasons, I am not necessarily opposed to composite characters and stuff like that, as long as the basic points are there. Yeah, no, I'm up for it, Skipper Kenner. I'm not going to use his real name online, so don't want to out him in case he doesn't want his firehouse being bombarded with fans or anything like that.
All right, let's move on. We got to wrap this stuff up. We got 2 more. This is a short, quick one.
Yeah, these are short ones. It's just a thing.
But yeah, we'll see about Day of the Triffids. It's funny because I remember the Chernobyl series aired right after the Game of Thrones finale. Like, this is. I was mad at HBO, but like, this Chernobyl series is kind of making up for the Game of Thrones finale.
Well, it was one nightmare following another.
Basically, yeah. Cocaine Bear mauled the box office, so Meth Gator could attack. What is this nonsense?
This is
going to be a thing now.
I'm all for it. Let's do it.
Okay, rising from her habitat, peering at a recent movie announcement, quoth Cocaine Bear, all these bitches my sons, but who's the daddy? The movie that inspired... I don't even know what that came from. Okay.
I don't even know what that means.
I don't know. The movie that inspired such declarations is this summer's upcoming Attack of the Meth Gator from production company The Asylum. The movie was announced on Twitter February 24th and appeared to be a joke until The Asylum replied to an incredulous tweet saying, "This is real. We're pumping the meth into Florida's freshwater reserves as we speak." The Asylum is known for creating horror movies like Sharknado, which flout the idea of being quote-unquote good or bad and instead aim for being the most movie. The film follows reports from Tennessee Police Department in 2019 that they were scared people flushing meth down toilets could result in local gators ingesting the drug. Given Cocaine Bear's recent success at the box office, and the
That
fact that
makes a lot more sense to me now. Okay, I see where you're going with this. Okay.
that its name provides an easy replica of Flora attacking the meth gator is unlikely inevitability. Of course, what this really makes is other drug animal movie combos: ketamine kangaroo, ecstasy boa constrictor, opium fruit bat. The world is our heroin oyster. Oh, you know this is not going to be a whole series. This will be, what is it? Animal addict exploitation. Is there a name for this now?
That
There are
could
all
be.
kinds of exploitation movie names, and this will be animal addicts maybe or something. I don't know what they'll call it.
I do like, though, that because just like Cocaine Bear, you hear about it, you go, that is the most bizarre, crazy, stupid, and then you find out, oh, it's based on something that actually happened. Okay. And now, I said the same thing about Meth Gator. Oh, come on, that's the most ridiculous. Oh, okay, it's based on a real concern that somebody expressed once. Okay, I see. Okay, let's do this thing.
Oh no! See, there you go, people. Their ideas are everywhere.
Well, this is what we've been saying. Like, quit destroying our favorite IPs. Make something new. We can't bitch when they make something new.
I can't
the gal that made this Cocaine Bear, she's a dumbass. She said some stupid things. She made a horrible Charlie Angels movie. She did another one. Woke dumbass. She puts it aside. She does something like this. Okay. You keep doing successful things like this out of the box without pissing people off, you might be able to save your career, girl.
And it's Ray Liotta's, I guess, final role, isn't it?
It is.
All right, time for our last thing of the night. Gotta take this one, Funko Land.
Yeah. There you go.
On this day, we discovered drugged animals certain enough to make money. I'm telling you, it's going to be an exploitation genre. Just like, what's funny? I realized I discovered a new exploitation genre. Apparently, Caligula exploitation was a genre of movie too. After that controversial Caligula,
the Penthouse film, yeah,
and then apparently there were a whole bunch of others that came out by other lesser things, so it just became a genre.
Yeah.
Funko is sending $30 million worth of its products to landfills. Wow. Let's see here. Funko, the toy and collectible manufacturer best known for its Funko Pop vinyls lines, is sending at least $30 million worth of its products to a landfill. As reported by Kotaku, Funko revealed during an earnings call that it had so much idle stock sitting in warehouses that financially its best option was to throw 30 to 36 million worth of it into the garbage. Inventory at the year-end totaled $246.4 million, an increase of 48% compared to a year ago, Funko said. This included inventory that the company intends to eliminate in the first half of 2023 to reduce fulfillment costs by managing inventory levels to align with the operating capacity of our distribution center. This is expected to result in a write-down of the first half over 2023 of approximately 30 to 36 million. CEO Brian Mariotti said during an investors call that one distribution center was so full that Funko was running shipping containers to hold the excess stock. Funko certainly has had its foot on the gas alongside when it comes to producing new lines of its pop vinyls. Alongside having a ton of iconic ranges with characters from Marvel, Star Wars, Game of Thrones, Harry Potter, and DC, there are also plenty of more obscure series including Pets, Conan O'Brien, NBA, and Icons and more. A dozen or so figures are launching this month too, including a glow-in-the-dark Shazam, the 1989 Batman, Walt Disney on a Train, and more. This is almost reminding me, Deleted Scenes brings it up. They can leave it in the same landfill they left the AT game. That's what this is reminding me.
Yeah, exactly. I know that Michael over at Retro Blasting was the place I first heard about it. He was talking. It came up in a live stream he was doing. Some people were commenting on it. Why do these toy companies just dump this stuff rather than, I don't know, donate it to kids' hospitals or something like that? It's unfathomable. It's just, it's ridiculous. And especially when we have and this is not related directly. I don't think it's the same company, but Hasbro is talking about getting away from plastic packaging. But then you got Funko saying, we're just going to dump all these plastic toys because, didn't sell,
I don't know.
I mean, that's got to be great for the environment, right?
Do you own a lot of these Funko Pops?
None. No, wait a minute. I take that back. I own one. It was given to me as a gift. It's a Klingon.
Okay. I don't have any of them. I mean, I never quite got the appeal, but I figured, to each his own, But this is Liz Banks again. She said, that Steven Spielberg doesn't put women in leading roles. People from the crowd yelled the color purple. Yes, I know. She didn't do her research there.
I mean, no, yeah, absolutely. That's just, oh my gosh, just ridiculous.
And she's like, "Oh, he directed that." Yes, he directed that. I could probably think of another one if I had thought about it harder. He's probably done other stuff. What was I going to say though? We're talking about Funko Pops. Yeah, I don't know. I never got the appeal. Fig pins seem more interesting to me. Have you seen fig pins?
I don't know. I don't know what that is.
They're like these enamel pins, decent size of different characters. It's sort of like a Funko Pop, but I think the pins are a little neater.
Okay.
You like enamel pins? Like the little enamel pins you used to get when you were younger?
Sure.
These are like these, except they're almost the size of an action figure. Not quite the size of an action figure, but they're larger. Yeah.
That's cool. Before we go on, though, real quick, yeah. I know you said that was the last one, but unfortunately we do have one more. It is a last-minute edition. This just in. Yeah. I thought we were going to get away without an in remembrance.
No.
But Gary Rossington, longtime guitarist for Southern rock icon Lynyrd Skynyrd, has died at the age of 71. The band confirmed in a statement today. This was about an hour ago.
Sweet Home Alabama. That's what they wrote, right?
Yep. So this is from the Lynyrd Skynyrd Facebook page. It is with our deepest sympathy and sadness that we have to advise that we lost our brother, friend, family member, songwriter, and guitarist, Gary Rossington, today. Give me a second, guys.
It's fine.
Gary is now with his Skynyrd brothers and family in heaven and playing it pretty like he always does. Please keep Dale, Mary, Annie, and the entire Rossington family in your prayers and respect the family's privacy at this difficult time. Just wanted to share that real quick because breaking news, and I thought it should at least be mentioned.
Yeah, that's too bad. Are you a big Lynyrd Skynyrd fan?
Yeah, I was. I love the style of music. That whole. I mean, I think it does it a disservice to call it rockabilly, but it is that southern rock.
Southern rock. I think it makes more sense because rockabilly, I think almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something else. Yeah.
It's that's more pop. I think this is a little bit harder, but good down home type rock music. And yeah, these guys, we talk about this all the time. These talented artists, we're losing them, and I don't see them being replaced. I just don't. So
I know that Sweet Home Alabama, that was originally written as a reaction to some of the
that was
South stuff going on.
A little bit of political stuff. There's a lot of interesting political stuff there. Definitely worth looking into. The history on all that. I'm not going to do a big, retrospective on it, but I figured we should at least get it mentioned.
Yeah. Well,
so what do we got coming up? I know that Birdman was on earlier today. Does that mean he's not doing one tomorrow?
I think he's doing something. Maybe he's not, but I thought he was going to do something Monday. I know that one of his regular guests has been out, so he's not been able to do the Monday streams as much. But we are going to be doing Congo on Wednesday, definitely.
Well, let's just make sure that we get up his, and I know that I'm probably going right over what Steven's doing because he's dropping links too, but it doesn't hurt. Just follow along with me. Wednesday, Congo rewatch. on Soundtracks with Birdman.
I'll be there with Big Al.
I didn't see the link up yet, so I'm just dropping his channel. Is there an anime thing going on Tuesday with Mr.
There
Matchstick?
is. With Mr. Matchstick, he's doing a sort of like if they were going to redo something in the original Gundam universe, the UC time.
Okay. But again, I didn't see a link, so I'm just dropping his web page. Or
I think it's still going
YouTube
on.
page.
I know he had to postpone it, so maybe he's seeing if he can still do it this week. But
that's fair. But if you are at all an anime fan, I think I said that earlier in the stream. Just make sure you're subscribed to him because he's our anime guy. Thursday, we normally don't have anything on Thursday, but this Thursday on Netter's Network, again, I didn't see the stream up, but I'm dropping the link to her channel because you should be subscribed to Netter by now. If you're following this channel, if you're following my channel, you should be following Netter. She is the heart and soul behind. Well, she's the heart and soul behind me. But she's the heart and soul behind a lot of our channels. Thursday, she has a special live stream at 9 Central, 10 Eastern, where she'll be doing a special celebratory stream and giveaway of a couple different items to be mentioned that stream. If you're interested, you like free stuff, you want a chance to win something, and you want to congratulate her on 200 subscribers, come on by on Thursday when the link goes up. If you've hit that notification bell on her channel, you will know about it. Which brings us to Friday. Over on my channel, I will be hosting my regular last call, and my special guest on Thursday will be Magitech Mags. She's in competition with Stephen Otten to be the primo #1 blue wrench in the community. But seriously, she is awesome. She's a big supporter of a lot of your favorite YouTube channels. She has been heralded by Ryan Roger Athay as a rising star. She has been interviewed by him on his reality-based. And she has been one of the toxic femmes on Midnight's Edge After Dark. And she has agreed to grace us with her presence at Last Call on Friday, and I can't tell you how happy I am. Which brings us to Saturday. That is too long a thing for me to drop. So let me do these one at a time. Big Al is this month is March, and he's doing Michael Pare March, where we will be doing a rewatch of the film Streets of Fire from 1984. That's a bit of a fuzzy memory, but I do remember loving that film. Definitely a great soundtrack. I don't think he would be opposed to having Soundtracks with Birdman on if he was able to make it. Just throwing that out there, because it is such an awesome soundtrack. Not his kind of soundtrack. It's more that classic. 80s pop.
A lot of actors in that
series.
too. You got William Dafoe's in it.
Yes,
Rick
he
Moranis is in it. It's and of course Diane Lane.
Diane Lane is very, very in that movie. Let me tell you, great film, great soundtrack. I mean, those kinds of movies, those 80s soundtracks were the soundtrack of my life.
Oh yeah,
remember the
Flashdance soundtrack?
Oh my gosh, I remember seeing Flashdance in the theater. I did a report on it for school. There was this school project that I was a part of where we paired up, and we were different parts of a nightly news show, and me and my partner got the cinema reviews. So every week we would do two films in the kind of the Siskel and Ebert style. You know, we were working together, but we wouldn't talk about our opinions until the day that we did our presentation. And then we would rewrite the presentation afterwards to present to the teacher. And the teacher was actually pretty impressed by that, because it was like we were doing double work because of authenticity,
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Kind of prepared me for this kind of a thing. It was in advance of my YouTube years. So there you go.
So, and then brings us back to Sunday with Geeky Geezers,
where we can't tell you what we'll be talking about because we don't know what the week holds.
Well, hopefully it'll hold some good news. I was just thinking though, reading that D&D article.
Yeah.
I think Mexican Iron Man needs to go see that movie.
Yeah, maybe.
I want to hear him review it. I want nobody to talk to him about it. Says, "Hey, you're a D&D fan." He's like, "Well, I watched the cartoon. Yeah, it's supposed to be like an homage. Okay, I'll go check it out." And then
that is just cruel.
I'm not going to do it myself. I'll leave him alone. But hopefully he just goes. Maybe Paul, he can go on Paulie's channel.
The problem here as a D&D fan is it's really hard to get worked up over after we've already had so many bad D&D movies. It's like, well, here comes another one. Oh, this one, is a comedy and it's, makes men look bad and everything. It's like no big shocker here,
So we'll have to wait and see. We probably know what it's going to be, though. All right, y'all have a good week. I am dead dog tired. How about you, Troy?
Yeah.
Okay.
I am,
all
but
right.
We got to end sometime.
Stay tuned during the week, and we'll catch you next time.
Take care, y'all. Bye-bye.